All right, good evening. This is the regular meeting of the Town Council of Bay Harbor Islands, February 9th, 2015, and we're getting started just about 7:30. We've already done the pledge of allegiance, so we won't do that again. Marlene, if you would just call the roll, please.
Councilmember Sauber.
Here.
Councilmember Reed.
Here.
Councilmember Fuller.
Here.
Councilmember Bruder.
Here.
Vice Mayor Leonard.
Here.
Mayor Yaffe.
Here. Before we get started, I wanted to congratulate Vice Mayor Leonard and his wife Natal on the birth of their son Max today. Congratulations. A new addition to our town. I want to thank you for your patience during that break between the quasi-judicial public hearing, which ended a little bit earlier than we thought, and the start of our regular council meeting this evening. Those of you who've looked at the agenda will see that we're doing this a little bit differently tonight, as we discussed at the last meeting. Everybody's been filling out these forms, so what we're going to do tonight on public comment, which is item number 3, anyone who wants to speak about anything, we'll have 3 minutes. When we get to the individual items later on the agenda, the public comment will be 2 minutes. We want to try to give everybody the opportunity to speak on the individual items, and the goal here is to finish at 11 or earlier. Our agenda says any items not addressed by 11 will be continued to tomorrow evening at 7 p.m., so we'll see how that works out and whether we really do need to meet again tomorrow evening. So we are going to start this evening under special presentations. As I guess everybody knows by now, former council member Solange Rousselat resigned at the beginning of our last meeting, and this evening we will be hearing from 5 candidates, 5 individuals who submitted their name to fill that vacancy. We're not taking public comment on that item. In the past, we've traditionally made appointments just by council vote and after hearing from the applicants without taking public comment. So, Craig, would you explain to the council and to the public how this process works for the appointment? Or Marlene, either one of you.
Yeah, each one of the candidates, which I believe they're all here tonight, will come up, call them in alphabetical order, and they'll have an opportunity to address the council. After that time, the town council will vote, and we will have to have a majority vote to decide who would fill the vacancy. Once that has been decided, the newer council member will be sworn in and will take his place on the dais.
Thank you. So as Marlene said, we're going to do this in alphabetical order. So I first invite David Anderson to come forward and introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm David Anderson. Congratulations on the birth. I didn't know. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing all of us to have an opportunity to speak before you tonight. I submitted my application to fill a vacancy on the council for the same reasons that I previously ran for office. I've been a resident of Bay Harbor Island since '94. This is where I choose to rear my family. My older son went to Bay Harbor Elementary, and my younger son is there in the 5th grade. I've been the president of the Belmont Condo for 15 years, and I've worked with a variety of people over the years on the board to not only maintain the property, but to enhance it while working within a budget so as to not place undue financial burdens on those who are possibly less able to afford it. I've been heavily involved with the Rotary Club of Miami, the original founding club in South Florida, which today is 98 years old. It was founded by Dr. James Jackson. We have worked for the Lighthouse for the Blind, Safe Space, Miami Airport Military Lounge, YMCA, Interact and Rotaract Clubs, Chapman Partnership to Feed the Homeless, distributing dictionaries to 3rd graders in Dade County, including here in Bay Harbor, international projects, eradicating polio, water projects in Guatemala, etc. There's a great deal of need out there in this world. I've practiced law in Miami since '94 also, and my credentials are reflected on my resume. Needless to say, law is a challenging profession, dealing with conflict and disagreements on a daily basis. This part of the human condition, but to construct resolutions is an art form. However, this council position, in my opinion, is not about my academic record or professional accomplishments. I commend the board for the work it does, which is reflected by the quality of life here in Bay Harbor. The new sewer system, the paved streets, the signs, the improved toll system on the Broad Causeway. In fact, in preparation for this evening, I printed out the package sent out by the town clerk, Marlene, here in my hands, and I commend each and every one of you for the hard work that you are doing on behalf of all of us. It's obvious that in the past there has been an issue between those who mainly oppose new development and those who strongly advocated for it. My opinion was, and still is, that development is a given over time as buildings approach obsolescence. However, it must be controlled and reasonable development so as to not adversely impact the quality of life that we also dearly enjoy on these islands. Also, it should not be done to shortchange the owners who are selling their units and have to obtain a fair price so they can purchase another place to live. I believe to the extent possible, each person should give back to his or her community. I have learned that there is a surplus of criticism and complaints in the world. There is a scarcity of solutions. I firmly believe in teamwork and consensus building. It's easy to argue, but far more difficult to compromise in order to get things done. We who live in Bay Harbor are truly blessed. We have a wonderful school, access to just about everything a person could want or need. I call it a little piece of paradise. My lifelong concern has been and is about the younger ones and the older ones. It is imperative that we continue to support our school and enhance programs as much as possible. It is important that we provide programs for kids that often play in the streets. I know that a community center is in the works. As an elder law attorney and owner of a home health agency, I'm heavily involved with the elder community. I see daily their needs, such as semi-poverty, living alone, inadequate nourishment, etc. I've had a number of people ask me to continue to run for the council to give them a voice in the community. They, in many ways, tend to be the throwaways in our society. We need programs to address their needs, such as transportation, a helping hand, food, and in many ways, love. Of course, government cannot address this issue by itself. It is important, however, to take them into consideration in moving this town forward. Of course, there are zoning issues and code issues, setbacks, development, density concerns, water issues, the list goes on. But far more important to me than these issues is the awareness that people, the citizens, are the ones that must be factored into all the decisions made. If selected, my hope is to become part of the solutions to continue to improve this wonderful town we love and call home. I've been on numerous boards and committees and fully understand that it is an honor to serve our community, and I enjoy doing so in any way I'm called to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ken Eskin? Good evening.
Ken Eskin, 1310 99th Street. Council members and fellow islanders, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to appear before you in my quest to get your approval to fill the open council seat. Over the years, many residents have suggested that I run for council, but due to business and travel constraints, I knew I could not put in the necessary time to do the job. I now have that time and will be proud to work for the betterment of the entire town. Unfortunately, when I wrote and submitted my resume in haste to get it in on time, I left out some pertinent facts. This was the first time in 40 years that I either needed or wrote a resume. I have lived in Bay Harbor Island for 35 years. I've been married to Ellen for 40 years. My daughter Alyssa attended Bay Harbor Elementary, Nautilus Middle School, and Beach High. She's now an assistant principal with Miami-Dade Schools. Personally, as a realtor, I was involved with the retail leasing of both the Lowe's Miami Beach and the Seminole Hard Rock project. I have heard that there has been a call for an East Islander to be appointed to council for a more balanced board. I've been attending and constructively speaking at town meetings for 20 years. so I didn't just pop up. However, which island one lives on should not be the only qualifier. While I was the president of the Bay Harbor West Island Homeowners Association for many years, that doesn't mean that I'm not interested in the East Island. I was invited to partake in the charrette, which was ordered by council and paid for with town funds. The purpose of the charrette was to envision and adjust the comprehensive master plan for the town. This took time and meeting participation. I was also part of the Downtown Development Association with the purpose of developing and improving our downtown areas, which met weekly. I even went to Las Vegas to the retail convention with Carolyn Feenster, who was the town-paid consultant on my own dime to help entice retailers to the benefits and coming to Bay Harbor and opening. Recently, I brought to the administration and council the fact that the outdoor exercise equipment on the East Island Park was in disrepair and needed to be fixed or replaced. The point of this conversation is that I've always tried to promote and be mindful of the entire island. I don't believe there is another candidate who could say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Jack Carson. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Jack Carson, and thank you for the opportunity to be here in front of the council. I just want to point out one thing that I heard tonight, which I already find fascinating. I heard government and love in the same sentence. And I hope as we go forward, that's something we really think about a little bit more, because I was very impressed with that. The bottom line is, I'm here seeking your support to serve on the town council as you fill the vacant council seat. Now, we should be very proud of our community that we have so many qualified candidates that are interested in making our town even better. You have my credentials in the package that I submitted. Clearly, I believe my diverse business background, my community service involvement, my commitment to charitable endeavors, and my commitment to Bay Harbor support my efforts to be an effective member of the council. Yes, I have 3 children. They all went to Bay Harbor. My wife went to Bay Harbor. Her grandfather and uncle were founders of the island as well. But that's not what this is about. This is about today and where we go today. I've always supported causes that I believe in. I believe in the town of Bay Harbor Islands. Giving back to community is important. And frankly, that is why government, like all of you do, is successful. I'm ready, willing, and able to give back. I assure you that what I do not know, because I would be the new guy on the block, I am willing to learn. And although I'm not part of a political operation, I do understand how the town works, as I've had different experiences with the building and zoning departments, police, public works, the toll, and everything else that goes on in the city. And I even understand the zoning issues as I looked at putting a business on the Kane Concourse. We ended up not doing it, not because of the town, it just wasn't the right business decision for us at the time. Now, in regard to where we focus, my goals are clear. I'm very interested in the master plan to continue managed growth and development. I'm very interested in working with the landlords, residents in town to make the Kane Concourse an economic and visual success. I'm very interested in continuing and growing the significant and very positive infrastructure improvements. And finally, I'm very interested and committed in living up to the fiduciary and budgetary responsibilities of the town. Finally, and someone spoke about it earlier, I want to address one topic that I do find a little disturbing. I've heard that there are divisive issues between the east and west sides of our town. Interestingly enough, when I think of Bay Harbor, I think of the houses, I think of the condos, the school, the Kane Concourse, the parks, the businesses, where my kids played all over both islands, and of course I think of the residents. And I really think of it as Bay Harbor, and I want to represent everyone. I'm even more committed to bridging that gap as we bought a residential unit on the east side of the island as well, and have neighborhood interests on both sides. I believe I can serve our community well. I will do my best to continue to make sure Bay Harbor Islands is the place to live and work. I promise to give everything a fresh look and perspective. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Woodfield. Good evening.
Good evening, Bob. Mr. Mayor, council, and staff. I think the easiest thing for me to do, and that's why I was going to do it, was just read some of the things that I filed with the council, since the people don't see that. So what I'd like to do is just excerpt a little bit of what I would like to speak about. For the last few years, I have attended the council meetings and many of the various committee meetings, some of them being planning, zoning, parks and recreation, and environmental meetings. In addition, I attended the scheduled workshops on various subjects. I had also applied to serve on the Charter and Ordinance Review Committee, but the council, in its wisdom, decided to eliminate the committee. By doing the previous things that I just spoke about, it put me in a position that I really understand what's going on in the council. And I'm up to date on the various things the council has discussed and that the various committees have discussed. I don't think there would be any learning time for me to have to go through to determine what's going on. Anytime you go into a new organization, there's a learning curve. I believe that my actions over the last few years have eliminated that learning curve. The largest group of citizens in Bay Harbor are senior citizens. They really are the largest group. I know we have Bay Harbor School. I know we have other things that apply to families. I know we have recreation. But the largest group are the seniors. Well, by virtue of me being one, I think I can understand better what the seniors want than most who aren't. I don't think it's possible until you're a senior to really know what the seniors want. You think you do. I know I've been in positions in my former life where I thought I did, and much to my chagrin, I thought I was wrong, because that's not what they wanted. Well, for better or worse, I'm one of them now, so I can understand it a little bit better. The council presently does not have a member who specialized or concentrated their work and their work efforts in the financial arena. I think that's important that you have. I think that by having someone who's been in that arena, they can understand certain things that maybe the average council person, not because they wouldn't like to, but just because they haven't done it, is really familiar with. I think there are many things that can be done from the financial side in the town that could improve the finances of the town. I'm aware of some of them. And I would, whether I'm appointed or not, if you'd like to ask me what I would suggest, there are certain things that I would suggest. I don't have any other job. No, I've got to stop that. I do have another job, and that is I'm now the president of the Miami Beach High School Alumni Association. And that's another job. But other than that, I'm not working for a living. I'm living here because I want to, and I'm living here because I don't have to work. And I don't have to follow it around like I've done in the past, living in very many different communities in the country. It gives me the time to spend on doing the work that should be done. And that's the thing that I can offer. The time, my knowledge, my background. I would like the opportunity to serve. And by the way, one question that always seems to come up, well, if we appoint you, are you going to run? And the answer to that is yes. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tom Telesco.
Hello, my name is Tom Telesco.
Good evening.
9925 East Bay Harbor Drive. Congratulations, George. Thank you. And I serve currently on the Planning and Zoning Board.
So when you're speaking to the mic, somebody behind you that they can't hear you.
And I currently serve on the Bay Harbor Islands Planning and Zoning Board. I did not prepare a specific speech. I just thought I'd talk a little bit about who I am and give you the opportunity to get to know me a little bit and know my experience in life. It's been very rich and very interesting. I didn't get into one field and stay there all my life. I'm married. My lovely wife is right over here in the back row, Lynn. We have 3 children and 2 grandchildren, one of whom is named Max, by the way.
Good choice.
We've been here over 20 years. Politically speaking, my wife and I are not allowed to vote in Democratic or Republican primaries because we're registered independent. Politically speaking, as far as national defense and money goes, fiscal matters, we're Republican. As far as social issues go, gay rights, women's rights, you name it, we're Democrat all the way. But we can't vote in either one, so we're independent and we vote as we so choose in every election. I started my career as a alcohol and substance abuse counselor for Buffalo Children's Hospital, as is in the resume that I turned into. My wife Lynn is a certified alcoholism and substance abuse counselor in New York. That's CASAC. She's licensed there. And she goes to our home in Western New York and works 3 months a year, not in that capacity anymore, but training younger counselors. Shortly after that, I began R&R Building and Fence Company with a friend of mine who had just come home from Vietnam. Did that for about 2 years, saved up a lot of money, and then opened my own nightclub, which was called Jack Daniels. And for that period of time, I was partners with movie mogul Harvey Weinstein and his brother Bobby. So we had a lot of fun, brought interesting entertainment to Western New York, everybody from the Rolling Stones to Frank Sinatra. It was a good time in my life. And then I met my lovely wife, and went back into construction. We moved to San Diego, California. Stayed there for about a year, and then came back to Western New York, where we were natives from. And I became the president of the Home Improvement Council. I was appointed to the licensing body for contractors in the city of Buffalo. And also Leadership Buffalo, which I served the charter class of Leadership Buffalo in 1988. When I arrived in Miami in 1992, the Miami Chamber of Commerce selected me to be a member of that same class here, Leadership Miami. But just having gotten here and trying to get my business off the ground, I was unable to participate in that. I'm a licensed architect. I own a firm called Telesco Associates. We're right across the street at 1111 Kane Concourse. I'm on the board of directors there, and I'm also the building manager. I don't know what else to say besides that. I think that my various experiences don't lock me into just one experience set. I have a lot of different experiences in this life, and I think I'd be a great addition to this. I don't see anybody up here with any architectural background, and I think that a lot of the issues that are facing this town are architectural issues. They're about development and heights and setbacks and so on and so forth. And as a member of the planning board for the last year, I've seen so many conflicts in the zoning code that need to be corrected by this body so that the planning and zoning board can do its job more effectively. I think I could be a big help to that. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Marlene, do you... Huh? I mean, I guess you can.
I had a,
If you're a member of the council, and I don't want
I
to
had
ask
a question for Tom Telesco.
Wait until he...
You currently maintain a home in Western New York right now,
Well, we have a home there, and my wife moves there every summer.
and you don't move with your wife every summer?
No, I'm here. I have to watch my business and maintain it.
So you personally live here full-time?
That is correct, 100% full-time.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else?
That's actually all the candidates, other than Paul, who answered the question as far as who is here to try and fill the 3 months or who is intending to run. So I just want to know from you, as well as the other candidates, if you're intending to run to maintain the seat afterwards.
Absolutely. Thank you.
If I can get the same answer from the other candidates as well.
Mr. Carson, did you want to, Mr. Eskin? Okay. Mr. Eskin, the question that Councilmember Fuller had is, you're running, and did I miss anybody? No? Okay.
And David...
Oh, David, I'm sorry, yes. I'm sorry, yes, okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the members? Okay, Marlene, if you will pass out our ballots.
In case you want to trip it up.
Whatever mark.
X marks the spot. X marks the spot. There you go. That takes so long. You're going to see it in 2 seconds, you know. You gotta put it in an envelope. You're done?
Huh? I'm thinking.
I'm thinking too. We could discuss it. We could discuss it.
What?
Well, if we can.
No, I know.
It's cold. It's freezing. So one day I don't bring it down.
Mr. Town Attorney.
Yeah, well, it's cold in here.
Like the little tuckies on your...
Yeah, they...
We don't have a majority. The highest number of votes any one candidate received was 2, so I'm going to have to distribute it again, and hopefully we'll get a different result this time.
Craig, if we don't come to a consensus, then what happens? I'm sorry.
The question is, go ahead, Stephanie.
I'm sorry. If we cannot come to a consensus... I am, sir. Can you hear me? No? Now? Okay, sorry. If we cannot come to a consensus,
To a majority.
a majority, what happens
Then the
next?
seat would, after a number of ballots, when it's deadlocked, then the seat would remain vacant until the election.
Well, I mean, let me ask you, is it the same ballot, or does it the people that have 2 are the only ones that run up?
No, everybody.
Voting.
I mean, we can talk about it before we blindly vote. You know, And but-
Can you make public how the first vote went?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You can just give the numbers. Okay.
That's what I meant.
No, I know.
The name of the number, right?
Right.
Okay, so we have... The first 4 candidates received 1 vote each. Mr. Telesco received 2 votes.
Gee. Gee.
So,
Maybe we should have a discussion before we, you know,
can we do that?
yeah, sure.
We can talk about anything you want.
Yeah, I mean,
Jordan, if there's something you want to say?
I mean, you know, we're lucky enough to have 5 different individuals that have put their name in. You know, obviously, we've had appointments where we've had less people put their name in. You know, it seems to be very diverse as far as the number of people that were selected, since every single person got at least 1 vote, and 1 person got 2 votes. You know, I guess we'll try one more round, but, you know, I think we should probably try 1 or 2 more rounds and then call it a day, but I didn't know if anyone had any questions or concerns, since obviously it's very diverse for how everyone's selected. So, you know, it doesn't even... Yeah, we'll do another round. Okay. All right.
I'd like to say something also while we're
Go ahead.
deliberating. I'd like to thank all five of you. You know, it takes a lot of courage, and, you know, unfortunately, there are some of you that I really would have liked to have seen here more recently, so everyone has their own criteria. We're not really locked in. I can tell you that mine is, I'm looking for people who've really paid their dues, who've come to meetings, who have called me personally, and who've really participated, you know, and then in April, we'll have an election, and the people can decide, and they can, you know, use their own criteria. And I also appreciate all the commentary about the East Island and West Island, because I think we are one town, and sometimes, you know, that gets weighed, in my opinion, a little too heavily, because the bottom line is, just because you live on one side or the other, doesn't mean that you are really going to, you know, share the same opinions and values of your neighbors. So, you know, that's my criteria, and I look at people who look out for the entire town, not just East or West Island.
Okay, thank you.
So you're going to have to do it again.
That was fast.
So now we have two with two votes.
Any closer?
Two with two votes, and two others with one vote each. I'm not sure how you want me to do
Which candidates have two votes now?
Mr. Eskin and Mr. Telesco.
You want to vote again, council, or?
I'm not sure we're getting anywhere.
I mean, we can-
Pick two more votes at the flip, it's not just one.
Well, I mean, if we're down to two people, we can, you know, I mean, we can drop the others. If
Well,
that-
I don't know that,
We're not there, right? It's-
I don't know that we should be dropping, I don't,
Okay.
I mean, I don't think really that's part of the process. I mean, we've just got to go a little,
My recommendation, and I think this would be the legal position, would be that you have to consider all the candidates, number one, and I would suggest the council can decide, but the test would be a good faith effort, so Frank thinks 5 ballots, I think 3, so he and I compromised at 4, but either 3 or 4, and then at that point, I think he would declare it an impasse and wish everybody luck in the election coming up.
okay.
Yeah.
How many of these did you print?
You anticipated,
I mean, we can also, no, you didn't. Is that, I mean, just out of curiosity, instead of doing the, you know, the voting through checks, why don't we just make a motion or something like that? We don't necessarily have to do it this way, do we?
that's the way we generally do appointments.
I mean, it's
It's the way
just,
we
you know,
do.
I'm just trying to figure out a way that we can come to a consensus, so. Jeez. There you go.
That was a deep breath.
She's quiet, so there's gotta be something going on there. Something.
We're tied.
What is it? What is it now?
Ms. Dust and Mr. Eskin. 3-3.
Oh,
One more time.
That'll be the 4th.
Let's put your name on it.
So this is the final one? Okay. Oh, should I write my name? Okay, sure. Okay. Bob, yeah.
That would be voting twice, that's not a good... Only one vote.
Craig is from Chicago, so he's seen that before.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah. From Chicago, the vote would be 100 to 3.
One second. There you go.
I think we're still 9. Wait, let me make sure. What's the 4th? We're still tied.
All right, that's it. We have an election, and let's move on with the meeting.
All right, looks like we're going to have a general election, well, a special election, I should say, in April to fill the vacancy, and we will continue as we are, with 6.
Not a bad thing.
But, you know, it goes to show that we had really 5 really excellent candidates, you know, who want to serve on the council, and I thank you all for, you know, for participating and seeking the appointment, and encourage you to continue to remain involved and, you know, think about or run in April. If you choose to do so, it's, you know, public service is great, and again, I thank you all for participating. During good and welfare, if you fill out the form in the back, then anyone who wants to speak can fill out the form in the back. And, all right, we're not at good and welfare yet. Again, thank you all for participating. Okay, the next item on the agenda is requests for withdrawals, deferments, and future agenda items. So if any member of the council wishes to pull an agenda item, speak now, please. And the reason we're doing that is that in the past, we've had people sitting around all night waiting for an agenda item to be called, only to find out at the very end of the meeting that it was not going to be taken up for some reason. So we don't want people to have to sit around if they're here for a particular item.
Yeah, I want to pull out of the consent, I want to pull number 12 out of the consent.
Pull it out forever, or?
Yeah, just
for discussion purposes?
There's one thing I wanted to add on to it, I think it's fun, I want to add
Okay.
something.
So 12 we'll consider separately off of the consent agenda. All right, so before we get into the manager's report, I wanted to do a couple things. One, I wanted to welcome Mr. Morgado and Alex from Ocean Cadillac. I thought it would be nice, you know, as we're going forward now, to welcome new members of our business community and give them the opportunity to just introduce themselves, and this will be ongoing, you know, as businesses are opening up. So if you just come up for just a couple minutes and introduce yourselves and tell us about about your plans. Welcome. Thank you for being here this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council member. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you tonight. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I came to this wonderful community of South Florida in 1978. I've made it our home and have been in the auto business since 1981. I'm married for 30 years, have 2 boys.
Sir, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but can you state your name?
Oh, sure. Mario Morgado.
Thank you.
I have 2 boys, 26 and a 24-year-old. One's in the business, the other one is off the payroll almost and ready to start working. But that's looking forward. We love this business, and I always tell folks, and when I start first, is what's our noble purpose? And our purpose in life is really to bring joy. We think that if we make enough joy and bring enough joy in our business, we'll sell cars, and that's the after effect. We've come to this community. We're very thrilled to be here, be part of it. I think we've worked hard already to remodel and make a change on a store that when you take a look at it, I think it's a little different and it shows. But more importantly, the inside, when you see the heart of the folks that are there and working, I think is what I hope that we can demonstrate to you. And we hope to be a long-lasting member.
Great.
this community, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you, and I just wanted to thank you guys. I've really
Your name,
felt,
please?
Alex Andreus, sorry.
Thank you.
Felt welcomed in the short time that I've been here. Got a chance to meet some of the council members here and the town manager. Everybody's been just very, very helpful and helping us out, and looking forward to spending a long time here with you guys.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome to the Harbor.
Now, you want to just briefly run down the other dealerships that you have across Miami, just so people realize, recognize you.
Thank you. We own Brickell Motors, which is in downtown Miami, on Southwest 8th Street in Little Havana. We have Honda, Buick, GMC, and Mazda, and we have Brickell Luxury, a luxury center there. We also have in Stuart, Florida, Audi and Infiniti that we opened up in December of 2013 also as well.
So you're not rookies, huh?
I don't think so, but but we're always humble and trying always, sir. So thank you. Good afternoon.
All right, thank you. We're going to take item 16 out of order. Vice Mayor Leonard, for good reason, needs to depart shortly, and so we're going to take this item on number 16. Item 16, discussion and approval of the 2015 regular council meeting calendar.
Take that out of
Did you want to speak about this?
I just wanted to vote on it. I believe it has the same type of schedule that we had from this year, that we had 10 regular meetings.
Okay.
Move it.
Is that schedule no change?
Yes, no change.
It's the same format. We're off in July and December, according to the schedule. Is that what it says right now?
Please say it.
The only thing I would change is the agenda sent to the council for the February meeting on February 28th.
Yeah, that's not going to happen.
I think December.
You'll be waiting a long time for that.
I think last time we looked at potentially doing August.
That was a mistake.
But
School
is...
I know, but
Yeah,
most
we're
people
not
are
new.
coming back in August for school
Right.
versus July. I mean, I think most people are coming back
At the end of August.
at the end of the July, because, people start getting ready to, go to school and
Yeah, that would-
college and the whole thing,
Yeah.
and it's usually...
Yeah, it seems that's where everybody's going, but I just remember last year, one of the things that happened was when a lot of the camps and everything else end, when a lot of the summer sessions and everything else for children end, it's usually the 1 week or so before, when we have our council meetings, the 1 week before school starts. And it tends to be a very hectic week for a lot of people, and I think a lot of people are also out of town that week. So I think we have I think that becomes a little bit of a problem.
Well, our schedule at the moment includes meetings in July and August, and I think that as we get closer to the summer, we can make a determination again, if that's acceptable, about, about our workload and what's coming up, and...
Yeah, the point was to set the agenda ahead of time so that we know.
Right.
And we can tell people yes, and then we can plan our items for either to be out July or to be out August.
Why don't we do July, and if we need a meeting in July, because we're so backed up, we can always add a meeting.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah, that's
You're saying take off July, and if we
Take
need a
out
meeting,
July,
we'll add it.
yeah, but
All
just
right.
do exactly what we did this past year.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it worked.
I'd like to advocate for having the 12 meetings. I think it's important for consistency. I think it still gives you 29 days to take a vacation, and anybody who needs to be gone for 2 months, isn't here to serve. So my position is have all 12.
Is there a consent? Do we need to vote on this, Marlene, or just a consent?
No, I just need a clear understanding of what we're going to do for
I
the...
think the consensus is to keep it the way it is.
Is that the consensus? Go down the line, Josh? you
It
want-
seems to me, I still think the month we should take is August, not July, but
Okay, but you're...
I seem to be outvoted, so I'll lean towards that.
Stephanie, you want the 10 meetings?
Yeah.
Jordan?
Yep.
Isaac?
10, yeah.
And, okay.
There you go.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thanks.
All
Good
right,
night.
thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
All right, Mark, it's up, buddy.
Thank you. Good night.
Okay, now... Town manager.
Okay, I'll be brief. 98th Street Park, grand opening is going to be scheduled for March 8th. We'll probably kick it off at 11 with ceremony to follow at 12. We'll be doing some advertising. It's a Sunday. I also realized, or didn't realize, it's also Spring Forward Day, or Daylight Savings. So
that's why the extra hour to get there, and then we'll have the actual ceremony at 12 o'clock.
What's that date again?
March 8th.
March 8th. As you know, you've seen some traffic MOTs going up on the bridge. The first day it was pretty chaotic. It's gotten a lot better. We still have issues when there's a bridge lift. It's the boat show, so some of the lifts are a little bit longer. We had one where a fly-boat went through, so we had to do a double lift. But generally speaking, it's as people get used to it, kind of like when we did the sidewalk, they get used to it and got better. You might have noticed on the West Island.
Is there any, I'm sorry for interrupting, but can't you make the lane, the single lane, like a little bit wider? I mean, is there any reason why it's just so tight between the sidewalk of the bridge and those narrow?
It looks very tight, but we actually follow the what do you call it? The
Standards for the...
the standard. It looks a lot closer, but that's what you actually drive to, and it actually does what it's supposed to do. It warns you, and it slows you down. And I don't want you flying over there because people are working. So, that's the way it's designed. I wish I could do something about it, but
I guess,
you will see this.
is that a long no?
Kind of, and actually, we do have to follow the FDOT plan because they're giving us $1 million for the program, and that's why you see such a robust plan. When we did the sidewalk plan, we paid for it. It was a little bit different, but this follows very strict guidelines by the state.
Are they working underneath the bridge?
They will start shortly.
And they're going to work on top of the bridge as well?
On top, side, and underneath.
And how long is this going to, how long is this traffic
14 to
pattern?
16 months. Now, this particular traffic pattern will be for 4 months, then it will shift, and then it'll be another 4 months, and it'll shift, then it'll go pretty much like that.
So we will not be back to normal for a year and a half?
No. About 14 months.
Yeah.
We anticipate 14 months.
Now, Ron, you had said that a moment ago, one of the purposes was to get people to slow down, at least right there. You and I talked a while back about it seems as if more people are speeding now that the toll plaza is gone. Have you taken a look into that and seen what's going on?
We actually did a speed study, a traffic study, and most of it is the traffic speeds have been pretty consistent, and we haven't seen that. And I don't think we're going to see it now, particularly with all the work. But, the one spot that we did see the increase, it was on when you came down from the top of the bridge down into the island, which is a normal spot where we catch speeders most of the time. And we will continue to monitor that and do enforcement in that area. Okay. Generally speaking, it's pretty good. And we're also looking into, Sean, the police chief has expressed interest to put up the signs that let you know how fast you're going, and if you do happen to exceed the speed limit, it kind of lets you know. And we're just looking for locations to put it so it lets you know, but it's not obtrusive to anybody. You might have noticed some work on the west side around the corners. That's FDOT in anticipation of doing the paving. So they are going to be setting a couple of new grades where you're crossing, particularly handicap. And we will be replacing 2 mast arms on King Concourse. We tried to get it in black, but they just don't do that. And the last time we did it came in gray, and we had to paint them, so we're going to have to do the same. So that was really it.
All right, thank you.
Actually, one more thing. On the letter that we all got from FDOT, it came out to all of us about the plans, it mentioned something about pavers, decorative pavers at some of the intersections. Are they putting those in, or are we going to have just plain asphalt again, or are we actually going to have a nice design at the main intersections?
The pavers will be the ones that currently, that you see on the
Not
corners.
anything else?
Not across.
Okay.
Not across.
Okay, thank you. Ask Dan Brea from BNY Mellon to come forward for our investment performance report. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of council. Dan Brea from BNY Mellon Wealth Management, reporting full-year results for 2014. The town's portfolios have an average current yield of 1.98%, an average yield to maturity or yield to call of 1.34%, and an average duration of 3.05 years. For the year 2014, the contingency fund was up 2.01%, the general fund was up 2.02%, and the water fund was up 2% even. Benchmark was up 3.13 for the year. Annualized since inception, the contingency fund is up 4.95%. The general fund is up 4.98%, excuse me, and the water fund is up 5.13%. The benchmark is up 5.20. At this point, I'll take any questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
Next, I'd like to call Dave Caserta up, our lobbyist, to give us a report on what's going on in Tallahassee this session and what we should expect.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council, and residents of Bay Harbor Islands and candidates. I just noticed that you still have a vacancy, and I'm just throwing this out there. I had former vice mayor experience in a neighboring city, so I'm just throwing that out there.
Moved here, but...
That's a good point.
Right.
First of all, thank you.
We'll consider your candidacy once your civil rights are restored.
Thank you, I appreciate that. That was good. First of all, I want to thank everyone for having me here tonight. As you know, this evening is for the purpose of opening the floor to all of you and to discuss some of your wish lists for this upcoming session. I had sent a report out of what's initially going on in Tallahassee in the early committee meetings, that you have a list of things from communication service tax, the stuff that gets filed every year that tries to go against some of the things that we're doing here. And they have some new business taxes, which are kind of interesting for some new small businesses that are coming in. It's based on the amount of employees that they hire for their company. So that could be something that could be quite interesting. The lodging issues are back. There are various issues related to that. So we're going to take our time until they go through committee and we define where we're at with those issues. But I know those are some that are interested to you. One of the things that I do want to talk about before we go to the wish list is that there were certain things that had to have some application deadlines. We went ahead and thanks to the manager and JC, who once again have been fantastic. Anytime we need information, they're right there on top of it. So thank you both very much. Is the $300,000 request for the sewer linings and the manhole linings that you're going to be working on. So the application got in on time. It was due on the 7th, and it was well before, and they've answered a whole bunch of questions that the House has moved forward on all of their projects, whether it's if they're water projects or regular funding projects, and so we're completing those applications as we speak. The Senate has not decided yet whether or not they want to move forward with water projects, but the House said that they want to put it on the table, so we did meet the House deadline. We also are working with some other issues that are percolating right now with regards to the dock issues, and we're working on those to try to resolve whatever we can to make life a lot simpler in the way it always has been here in Bay Harbor Island. So with that, I turn it over to all of you, and I am here to listen and answer any questions that you might have.
David, is there any legislation that we should watch out for that might be adverse to municipalities, like preemptive rights and things like that? Is there any of that?
Those always surface. But in the end, most of the times we were able to put the team together, and we work very closely with the Florida League and the Florida Association of Counties to fight those battles, and they're a strong organization, as we are up in Tallahassee. So if anything like that surfaced, you would certainly know about it through town manager, and then we would obviously want your opinion, which I know would be your position, and we would move forward and fight those concerns. Anything that you are looking for this year? Any special wish list projects?
You said you were going to deal with the lodging, so you got...
I think I went to the urban administration meetings, and the Florida League did not vote to put the lodging at a high priority. I think they felt like they don't want to go after it every year.
Correct.
They went after it last year. They got a few little tweaks, and in speaking to even some of our neighboring cities,
I think, they gave the city some options, and I really don't think they're able to enforce it. If you look on sites like Airbnb, you'll see, nightly rentals here, and even in some of the neighboring cities that have ordinances. And I was just speaking to them this week, at some of the dinners, and they were saying that very difficult to enforce. So.
Now, although just answering that question, although the Florida League of Cities did not, make it a priority, it still is a potential of surfacing, which it has. There are several bills that have been filed. So what matters really is who on the House and Senate have an interest in this fight, and if they are concerned with what has been going on because other municipalities like ours have been letting them know the situation, then they have the ability to move forward in a strong way to affect change. So at that point, I would probably say that if there was a bill that started moving and they've had a couple workshops on it, then I would think the Florida League would then end up stepping up to the plate at some point to protect that, as we would as well.
Go ahead, Bob.
I had hoped after last session, the legislation that came out, that we would have had that the municipalities would have had the ability to, if not regulate, but at least establish statistics where, we had talked about that, where, for example, short-term rentals would be permissible, but avoid having them throughout the entire community. I don't know if that's something that is in any of those, in any of the proposed legislation this year. So at least we would have some control.
Clearly, that was the understanding. So, I know there's been a lot of concerns about that, but, putting myself back in the council, I would probably, in a situation like that, do what I've got to do, and if there's problems, then I'm sure they'll come and say, no, you can't do this, and then, you know what, then we argue the intent at that point. I mean, there's many options that are available, so that's a decision that the council can make, but I will keep my eye on this issue and anything that surfaces.
I think something that really affects us all regionally is traffic congestion.
Yes.
And I've talked to people at the county level, our state representative, and, I've asked about things like checking into the timing of the lights, which is at the county level, and it was our state representative who says, until they get some kind of decent mass transit system, and this is 5 or 10 years or more away. It's bad now. Imagine how it's going to be then. So do you see anything like that in transportation? Was that your committee, Bob?
No.
No?
No.
Oh.
That's something we can...
I go part of it through regional impacts. That was one of the things I was looking at.
We can certainly have a conversation with the county and see, where they're at with that. I know Broward County has an issue with that as well, and they're working on it. Some of the legislators want to try to create legislation to do things, but that could cause even more of a problem if that happens. So, manager, if you'd like, we'll look into that issue as well at the county level and see if there's any possibilities of dealing with that. And I'll talk with you further about details of the issue as well.
Let me also ask you, without getting into the topic itself, one of the hot topics around here has been historic preservation, and I just want to know, has there been anything, is there anything that you see that's been filed or is planning to be filed up in Tallahassee that may affect our conversation in any way? I don't know of any, but I
don't either. I know from what I understand, they have, some money for historic preservation sites. I mean, for buildings and what have you. I know Biscayne Park just went through a little something there. So there are monies available to keep the historic value of property. But I haven't heard anything that would deny that. And if there is, they have it marked down.
I think that would be fantastic, because I think that would alleviate a lot of the tension if people could voluntarily designate their buildings and have a really good funding source to restore them, because that's what we consistently hear from the people that feel like they're sort of backed into a corner and have no choice but to sell. So I've talked to Sally Heyman about it and the Dade Heritage Trust, and I think that would really help us out tremendously. Josh, good idea.
Well, I'm not necessarily asking for to put the money. I want us to see if there's anything out there that will. I mean, that's something we'll look at, of course. We'll look at everything, but I just want to know that if we're going to have this conversation in the next couple of months, if Tallahassee's looking at altering the tone of the conversation and the actual facts around it, we should know that beforehand. That was what I was asking.
Absolutely. Okay. Anyone else? We're good? Anything, you can call me, if anything comes up and you want, us to take a look at something, we will.
Yeah, just for the record, I made a reservation for Legislative Action Day, March 17th, 18th, around there, so.
Okay, well, I guess we'll continue to coordinate as we've done every year. It's always nice to have all of you up there and experience the wonderful atmosphere that we get to go through each and every year.
Awesome. We'll strategize.
All right, thank you, David.
Thank you so much.
Forward to your hard work for us, as always, this legislative session. I thank you very much.
Thank you.
You set the bar high, $1.5 million, so we have to outdo it next year.
Oh, my gosh, I know. Maybe we gotta come up with another project. Thank you. Stephanie's car's getting towed, so.
Before we go, in case anybody's wondering why this is here,
He just really likes
we had, right, I like it. The Miami-Dade League of Cities had its annual installation function Saturday night in the town. It was a bronze sponsor along with other municipalities, and so we received another, token of the league's appreciation for that, and that's why that's here. We have a cabinet downstairs that has some of these awards and so forth and recognitions. We had a couple of events before we get into public comment in the last couple of weeks. One was the annual 5K, 10K walk race on February 1st, I think that was, on a Sunday morning. It was the 9th annual event. I wanted to thank Regine Shute and Bridget Morin for all of their hard work in putting that together. It was another successful event, and we really appreciate that. Councilmember Fuller and Bridget also put together the second annual Chasing Tales, and it was a very good event, well attended. Some of the restaurants participated with a fixed menu before the event, and so I want to thank and recognize you for putting together that event.
And I want to thank Bridget as well. She was amazing.
Right. And although Lima, which hasn't opened yet, a new restaurant, was not able to participate because they're not open, they did have a tasting table out here, which we certainly appreciated. And we have an upcoming, Stephanie walked out, but we have an upcoming Taste of the Town on the 11th. There are flyers around. And if you're interested in participating or, Stephanie will talk about it during reports, but you can buy tickets for that downstairs in Town Hall. So that's upcoming as well. Now we are going to take public comment. Mayor Zilber, did you want to say something about the transportation and the traffic signalization issue? I know that you had some other things to say.
Right. For those of you that are not aware, I'm involved with the Transportation Trust for Miami-Dade County. And if you feel that there is an area where the lights are not synchronized, please get in touch with the Transportation Department 311 and tell them, because we personally pay for that and have done it all over the areas of Miami-Dade. Also, in case some of you have heard about the runaway bus and buses, I've been in touch with Jim DeFede, and tomorrow night is a meeting, 6 o'clock, it will be televised, and they are going to hear the not nice Linda really talk about it, and Jim DeFede is going to be there to help me. That was my county report, and now I'm here to say, Josh, thank you. The comedy evening was fantastic. It was such a joy to get out and to sit here, right here in our town, and not have to go drive somewhere far away, and have a wonderful program. And then to top it all off, the program was great, but then you supplied these goodies for Lima. That was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you for attending. We appreciate it.
So for any of you that did not attend that, you have another chance. That's on the 11th on Wednesday. Everybody should come out to the Taste of Bay Harbor. And not only will the restaurants be participating, but you heard from the new owners of Ocean Cadillac. We have a lot of stores and a lot of people that are going to open up and give you lots of goodies. Ocean Cadillac, besides Cadillacs, you can have dessert and lots of good drinks. So everybody please come out. It's $25, and this is in the back for you to pick up. Thank you.
Thank you. Janice Silver?
You want me to give my name and my address?
Yes, please.
Janice Silver, 10140 West Bay Harbor Drive. I'm coming to you with an issue about the rule for garage sales, because the way the code is written, it has to be indoors. And since I live in a condo, I don't have a garage that I could have the garage sale in. I can't have it inside the building, and I would like to consider changing the code such that there's no public view, because we have 7 parking spaces behind the building which would be out of public view that we could use for a garage sale.
So basically, you want to do a garage sale out of the view of the public, but yet not indoors. Not indoors.
And let me ask you one thing. Where would you put signs up for at the garage sale?
Well, the way the code is written, you're allowed 1 sign, so it would be in the front of the building.
Yeah, my recollection is right now the code is basically like sort of like a state sales, you know,
It's
where...
more for indoor, yeah.
For
it doesn't-
indoor. I understand your point, but I
Right.
just wanted to make sure I understood where
Yeah, it
we're
doesn't
at.
allow on the exterior of the premises.
But, I think the intent is that it's not visible. I once went to one that was in the backyard, so if that's the intent, why would we care if it's in the yard or in a place, under her garage where it's not visible? I think, I looked at the code, and you just need to strike the language that says indoors. And then it still says not visible from the street, so.
Okay.
It's up to the council.
I don't have a problem with that. That makes sense.
Can we put it on for...
We'd have to
We'll
draft
have to
it
bring an
Right.
ordinance.
Bring an ordinance.
Let's bring an ordinance.
Yeah.
for discussion, maybe next month, if that works. All right, thank you for bringing that up.
Maybe we should have the Planning and Zoning Board opine on that matter?
I don't think it's
I don't think it's
I think all that's going to do is it's going to prevent another garage sale for 6 months to a year. So let's let them, if we're going to let them do it, let's let them do it.
I give Janice credit, she did not want to violate the laws, because I have been to them where they're not visible and nobody would ever know, but she really is a good citizen and did not want to do the wrong thing, so.
Thank you.
We appreciate it coming here, I think that makes sense.
Francis Newhart?
Frances Newhart, good evening. I live at 1060 King Concourse. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to publicly point out that town is issuing building permits may possibly have discrepancies and separate rules and regulations for developers, lobbyists, town council members, and staff. Previously, to my building permit 2015-3, expiration date January 27, 2015, the building department on January 8, 2015 had stated on the town Bay Harbor Islands FEMA worksheet that the change of contractor experienced in the town was not approved and that the building permit had questionably expired. This was done with J.L.E. Pilings, who had stated there was ample time to put 32 pilings on the approval site plan before this particular building permit was to expire January 27, 2015. Therefore, why did the town only give harsh treatment to a town resident that has lived in Bay Harbor Islands for over 33 years and, according to the Flum map, owns buildings on the King Concourse and 95th Street and employs over 100 people? Why have the town only given harsh treatment to the town resident that now has to pay for an attorney, Board and Casell, to justify the town's wrongdoing? Please note the following developers were issued building permits with questionable extended and/or expired building permits. 1/6/2015 at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, 1100-1120 100th Street. Their permit expired 12/3/2014, and their pricing of 13 government TDRs was not raised. The Monarch property, which is now being built on the Gateway, does not have unity of title, nor deed recording of additional private TDRs. 9201 East Bay Harbor Drive, without building permit or development plan submitted. given a HB 7023 extension without unity of title, pricing of 51 government TDRs, and was not raised to present cost for TDRs. 982141 East Bay Harbor Drive, given building permit on 10/2/2014 with HB 7023 extension, which was not applicable. Expiration date was from 1/1/2012 through 1/1/2014, and the pricing of 21 government TDRs not issued to present cost. 943181 East Bay Harbor Drive was given a building permit 2014-372 on 10/22/2014 with HB 7023 extension and was not applicable. Expiration date was from 1/1/2012 through 1/1/2014. This was for the pricing of 48 government TDRs that were not raised to present cost.
Thank you, Mrs. Newett.
Although there may be others, thank you for giving me the opportunity to point out possible preferential treatment and building permit discrepancies with the following. Thank you.
Mr. Nemat, did you want to speak? Thank you for your patience.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I don't like to speak and give you the back of me, but this is the situation. Mr. Mayor, management, attorney, members of the board.
Could you state your name and address, please?
My name is Solomon Niemeyer. I am living in this town for 20 years, almost 20 years. And I see tonight the vote was very good. Not good, very good. My language is, I speak different languages, but I would like to commend you people how it is, how you people managing the whole situation, and to keep like that. I was thinking, I came over here, you see, I am not an attorney, I am not a lawyer, I am not a judge. I don't prepare speeches or nothing. So I would like to see something in my building, selling the building. I am as a senior, and let me tell you this, I am a sick person. For the last many years I have a cancer in prostate, and I like to address myself to try to protect the seniors of that building, because this building was sold and we don't know really where to go. And all kind of stories, and we went through, and I was from one attorney to another attorney, and I was in the hospital in Mount Sinai for a week ago, and they changed the board again for people who in the board they try to sell the building because they don't live permanently in Bay Harbor Island. They are temporary people, and they grab the board, and I don't know, with a buyer, and all kind of stories, threaten the tenants, the people who live there for so many years. They threaten them, the roof going to blow away, the water going to be out, all kind of stories. Maybe you people can help us in something for as a senior, to see what we like to stay here. We don't like to move. I see a lot of new building, maybe I hear like 10 new projects around the island, but it's something different. Our building is historical building. It's historical building. And really, I don't know what does it mean, historical, but I would like to see if you can people help us as the seniors, as the residents of this building, not as the people coming around to Canada or to New York. They have different place to live. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Thank you. Franklin Harvey, is it?
Excuse me, please disregard.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Victor Maya?
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street. And I didn't catch what building you live in, but you certainly have my sympathy and support for your plight, sir. One of the things that we heard here, during the candidate speeches was that there is this divide between East Island and West Island. I don't think that's the case. I think what's happened here over the last year and a half that I've been living in this town is that East Islanders are being impacted a lot more than West Islanders by development, policies, practices, procedures, and things of that sort. And because of that, we're sort of forced to be more vocal, in terms of trying to protect our interests. I think there's something that we can all unite on. East Islanders and West Islanders, we can all agree that there should not be any encroachments into any setbacks anywhere. Why not? Our code is rife with all kinds of quote-unquote permissible encroachments. Well, East Island, West Island, doesn't matter if you're in a house, in a condo, in a co-op, whatever you're in, why allow any encroachments? I think that's something that we can all agree on, East Islanders and West Islanders, and I think that's something that you all should consider. Secondly, I've seen some emails. One of our neighbors referred to this town, specifically the East Island, as a war zone. And I think she's right. With all of the demolition going on, it's amazing, what's happening. I go to Town Hall to ask some questions about the demolition process. I talk to our building manager. He tells me that an application for demolition really should have the signature of the landowner. Our town went ahead and processed an entire demolition application without the signature of the landowner. And Mr. Lee said, well, that was a miss. We should have gotten the signature. I talked to our town manager about this, and he sends an email back, which he copied all of you on, and he says, no, we don't need a signature. That's the last thing in the process. We'll go ahead and process all this demolition work. And then at the very end, we'll get a signature. I mean, do we really have the protection of the citizens in mind when it comes to demolition? How do these buildings have asbestos? Does anyone in the town check to make sure that they've removed the asbestos before demolishing? We're just relying on a signature from somebody? These are things that impact us, that we care about, that we expect our government to look after us when they're allowing all of these things to happen. So please, look at process, look at procedure. It's important to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we get a clarification on that?
Yeah.
I mean, tell us please about the signatures and when they're required. I just can't imagine that anyone can go apply for the demolition of a building.
Ron, do you want to address that?
Absolutely. My words were a little bit twisted there. Basically, if somebody wants to demolish the building, they don't do it themselves. They hire a contractor. The contractor normally fills out the building permits and goes through that process. When the permit is going to be pulled, when a building can actually be torn down, the owner has to come in and sign for the permit, and then the permit is actually granted. But it's similar if you were building a house, getting anything done in a home. Most people rely on a contractor or professional to take them through that process, and that's basically what it is. That's how it operates in Miami-Dade County. I know in the county and everywhere else we use permit runners, permit expediters. It's just a common practice, and there's no secret about it. That's the way it operates.
Further clarification, one thing, if you can address, I know Victor was mentioning asbestos, what the procedure is, just so everybody...
Absolutely. Before you tear a building down, there's a checklist that has to be followed. You have to have a DERM application that has checked off asbestos survey was completed. Those are filed and kept here at Town Hall. And anybody wants to see them, they're available to them. And we do not issue a permit or a demolition permit without those being done.
But then what about the mitigation of it? Because, I looked into the demolition next door also, and I learned from the building department that DERM has full jurisdiction over that. So the
demo company and the owner of the property has to submit the reports.
Absolutely.
But as far as the mitigation goes, I don't think we keep that on file. If you want to find out, like, the building next to me had asbestos in the linoleum. And I believe that was one that Durham had, they approved it, and whatever the mitigation was, I'm not sure. I'd have to go to Durham now to find out what was done, right?
I'm not sure
Yeah.
how the mitigation, where the stuff goes to, but that's usually part of the process.
And I've
It's usually
used,
removed before the building is demolished.
as far as the applications go, though, I know I've never done a demolition, but I've done a couple of repairs with licensed contractors, and one time the permit runner, another time the contractor directly had me sign first. So as the owner, I thought it was a prerequisite, if you're getting a permit, that the owner has to sign.
It's not, it's
No?
a common, no, I do not believe so. And I've certainly checking with the building department and in Miami-Dade, it's not required. You have to have a signature before a permit can be issued to you as an owner. So the question was asked to me, if I wanted to pull a demolition permit for a building I didn't own, I had no interest, could I do it? You can't. I mean, you could theoretically hire somebody to go through that rigmarole and then come down basically to say, okay, I'm ready to tear it down, but if you're not the owner, you're not getting a permit. You just wasted time and everybody, and your money, I guess.
Thank you. Terry D'Amico?
That's in the disclosure based on the HMS. And I'm not sure about that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have an extra copy for the record?
I'll give you mine afterwards. Did you provide one to Mr. Watson?
Yeah, no, I had 7 or 8 just now, so, I might have, maybe they got...
How many, is this the same thing? No, no. Yeah, okay, let me look over your shoulder.
Sure.
Go ahead, Mr. D'Amico.
Terry D'Amico, 9101 East Bay Harbor Drive. I just want to say that I went in 2 weeks ago to look at a demolition file, and there was nothing. Two properties with 5 buildings have nothing in their file with about Durham. And also, 9 out of 14 buildings on my block are being demolished within the next year. I'm here because on August, the vice mayor accused myself and the county preservation officer of unethical behavior. And nothing came of it, we never heard of it. But during a public records search, I found this letter that was written from the town planner, who was going to write to the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And he accuses myself and the staff person at the county that it was discovered that we were in cahoots and we were conspiring and we falsified information to the National Trust of Historic Preservation in order to get the designation of the 11 most, because I had a book deal and I was getting royalties. And that's pretty slanderous as far as I'm concerned, because it's not true. There was no book deal. I didn't like this one. I don't know what one he was referring to. And this one, I wrote for free for a nonprofit corporation. So I think he'd have to really come up with some kind of contract showing I had the royalties. But he also, as far as inaccurate information, his entire theory was completely bogus. All right? He used this thing called masonry vernacular. Masonry vernacular is a building method of which is in the Mino period. So everything he based it on was completely false. But our town manager hired someone that he admitted did not have the qualifications, and you've tried to disprove the National Trust, the Florida Trust, NDPL, Dade Heritage Trust, all of these people, and you think that you know better, and it's a joke, because masonry vernacular is Mino. So in that, he also wrote a thing called me a local jihadist. local historic jihadists. Do you think that's really appropriate for one of your one of your consultants to call someone? The only thing that I'm really guilty of is loving this town so much that I've been promoting it for years with no income or benefits, and I'm called something like that. I think that you should be a little outraged. And as far as all the other stuff, the National Trust came down here. They didn't base it on all of that. And I bet you he doesn't even know which building is Morris Lapidus, which he claims is a production drawing, okay, that it's not iconic. He probably doesn't even know which ones they are. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Luck?
Good evening, Susan Luck, 10180 West Bay Harbor Drive. We are having demolition. It is going on. There is a lot of concern about it. I'm here as former chair of the Environmental Committee to ask that the council or the code enforcement or the owners of properties that are demolishing their properties, since it is going on, are responsible for cleaning up those properties as soon as the demolition occurs. I've driven by piles and mounds of debris that has asbestos, that has lead from paint prior to 1978 when it was banned, dust, mold, and we don't know what else. Winds are blowing, kids are walking, dogs are trekking it into their homes. We talk about all the children walking to Bay Harbor School, and it's unconscionable that we are allowing this environment to be affecting the people that are living here. We talk about children, we talk about the elderly. I would like to ask, and I don't know that I can at Good and Welfare, but who is responsible for the quick cleanup of demolition? There's a project on, I think, the corner of 98th and 99th and East Bay Harbor Drive. There's another one on 101st Street in West Bay and East Bay Harbor Drive. Those mounds, much higher than the fence, both to the waterway and to the street, sit there. It comes down on a Friday, and it's still there on a Monday. While people are walking to Temple, they're out with their kids on bicycles. What is our responsibility as a community? So I don't know the answer, but I think that it's something that has to be addressed, and I know that there are owners who have taken down properties where it's not about development, it's just about getting the projects down, such as was referred to on East Bay Harbor Drive south of 96th Street. And I would just ask that attention be brought to that and the council address it, the code enforcement, whatever the process is, and in my remaining 44 seconds, maybe someone can address that.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Okay, well, the building demolition process is, once it starts, it continues until it's completed. The areas are fenced off, they're screened, and sometimes piles may be there, but they're not left there indefinitely. They work till they're completed. They're wet down as they take the debris out. They might separate some of it for some reasons, but generally it's usually cleared as fast as possible because those demo contractors really get a one price. They're not paid by the day. They get a price, so the faster they start, or once they start, it's quicker for them the faster they can complete, the faster they go on to the next job.
My question is, if it takes a couple days for it to actually...
Depends on the size of the building.
Okay, but I don't think we should be starting anything on a Friday. I mean, if you start on a Friday, there's no way that, over that weekend, and to have an eyesore over a weekend when they're not actually going to be able to take it all out. I don't think you should...
Or let dust on the weekend. Yeah, but you have to understand that some of the buildings, some of them are larger, they take more than a week, so it doesn't...
But I don't think we should be starting anything on a Friday.
I guess my question is, if it takes more than a week, does the debris that came down a week ago need to sit there until the rest of it comes down when it's a Friday and another week goes by? I'm just aware when I drive around of seeing really large mounds of debris that are sitting. It's
I
just
do
an
my drive around every
observation.
day, so if you want to see me after, you can tell me exactly the mounds you're talking about, or give me the addresses, I can look at them again. I see
I
them.
really don't drive around the island every day. It's just on my way to work. I happen to pass them on the north side of the East Island. And I'm just sharing the information. It's not it's just an observation.
How long is it allowed to sit? Like, is there a particular
I'm
amount
not
of time?
particularly, they don't sit at all. Usually it's cleared out fast to make room for, once you're demolishing, you're building.
Trucks and taking it off.
But I don't think, and I could be wrong, but I don't think you can start taking off part of it or a lot of it before it's all fully demolished. You've got a safety issue. If you got part that's still up there, you don't want anybody digging around the sides. You got to take it down first.
I can give you an example of on 102nd and East Bay Harbor Drive where half of the building came down and the debris was on one side and the other side wasn't down, and that debris has sat there for a long time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, can I just back up for 1 second, because I do want to address something. When we heard Terry D'Amico come up here before, and the statement that she made about the local historic jihadist, I see the email here from Mike Miller, and that disturbs me. The fact of the matter, and Mr. Miller, I think there's a conversation that you need to have with Mr. D'Amico, and the fact is, there are going to be a lot of times when you or some of the staff may disagree with somebody's statement, and it happens. It's part of, any time you have a disagreement, but the word choice and the wording here against any single citizen is inappropriate, and I really think that you need to have a private conversation with her.
Thank you.
John, that letter was addressed for my signature. It was never sent. It's for me to review, so it wasn't...
the comment that was in an email.
It's an inappropriate comment. I understand, people can have disagreements. I don't have a problem with people having disagreements. You can have different standpoints. But, any activist, any person in the community, whether you believe right or wrong, the choice of words there, and, this is a document that, she's going to see, anybody else can see on there. It's inappropriate for those choice of words.
Agreed.
Thank you. All right, we're going to, for a moment, skip committee reports and go to the consent agenda. I'm going to pull item 4, with the exception of items 4 and 12, which is already pulled. Are there any comments or discussion by council?
I just want to say one thing. Before deciding on whether or not to pull number 11, I had a conversation with Ron, and I want to thank him at this point for something. One of the things we tried to see is because there's a significant question that's been out there as to why we can't gain any access to Surfside facilities, and their children may have, or anybody else have access to our facilities. And it really comes down to whether or not we're taking state money or not. Now, this is something that's not necessarily final right now. We'll see what the story is. But we did approach them about possibly, based on this, first trying to see if Surfside would be willing to open up their facilities to us. Unfortunately, they are against any opening to our citizens. But I do want to thank Ron for at least reaching out and trying that.
All right, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the
I make
consent
a
agenda
motion
with
to
the exception of 12 and...
I make a motion to
4.
approve it with the exception of 4 and 12.
Thank you.
Second.
All right. Marlene, do we need a poll vote because of the
Yes.
last item, the amount of the contract?
Councilmember Bruder.
4.
Councilmember Fuller.
4.
Councilmember Reed. 4. Councilmember Salver.
4.
Mayor Yaffe.
4.
It passes
Thank you.
unanimously.
We're going to item number 4.
Mayor, just before you do it, I know Morris brought in,
Yes.
and Russell are here. If you want to...
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't mean to overlook you both, and I did actually want to thank you for being here this evening, and also one of the events that I skipped over was a really great event that the town had last week, the Town of Bay Harbor Island's annual awards banquet. Last year, just the police department participated in this, but this year, the police department and the general employees had this awards banquet at the Seaview Hotel in Bal Harbor. It was a really nice event. We have great employees and staff members in this town, and they were recognized during that event. And I wanted to thank the Broad family and the Broad Foundation for underwriting that event. It was very much appreciated, And I know that everybody, who works here and serves in this community very much appreciates all that you do and that your family does and has done over so many years, besides founding our town, but supporting our town in so many of the events in this community. And I thank you very much. Thank you, Ron. Item 4. Councilmember Reed and I had requested that this item be put on the agenda, the resolution supporting the Miami-Dade County Sea Level Rise Task Force. And just a couple of people wanted to comment on that, so I pulled it. Tom Telesco?
For the record, this is still under consent, so there's still 3 minutes, or?
Yes, still 3 minutes.
Anticipating there could possibly be a person who voted on this tonight, I read the bill. I read the whole bill, cover to cover. And there is a paragraph on page 143 that effectively will destroy the real estate values of all the residential property on the East Island. I don't know if everybody's read the bill in its entirety, but that's the net effect. There's a little Trojan horse in here, if I may quote. First of all, Miami-Dade hasn't adopted this, and Miami Beach is against this vehemently. I talked to my friends at Weiss Serota, zoning attorneys in Miami. Today, they said I was 100% right. Miami-Dade County shall continue to orient its planning, regulatory, and service programs to direct future population concentrations away from the coastal high-hazard area. That's us. We're the coastal high-hazard area. All the barrier islands are. So in my case, I have a piece of property with 5 units on it. It has a certain value to developers. The minute this goes into effect, my property value gets cut in half. And the same thing with everybody on the inside of the island. This is a horrible move for us. And I think everybody who has residential real estate on the East Island should be vehemently against it. It's terrible. Any questions?
I have a comment. To direct future population concentrations? So, in addition to what we have now?
I'll go further. It says developmental redevelopment proposed in the land use element and population in the CHHA, but shall be not built, expanded, oversized to promote increased population in the coastal high-risk area. That means we can't add, forget TDRs, they're a thing of the past. You got a piece of property with 9 TDRs, don't matter. You got 5 units on it, that's all you can replace it with. You can't increase population. This is a nightmare. And as much as I would have liked to have served on the council, I would have never known about this had I not run. And it's very fortuitous. This would destroy my property value and everybody on the East Island. Whatever you think your property's worth today, vote on this. It's less than half of what you thought you had. This is a real serious matter. And I can't believe nobody read it. Thank you.
I read it, but that did not alarm me. I thought it was a good thing. I think that, we have to really...
Stop development?
We have to watch our density. We have to be careful. Look at the traffic that we have without the bridge construction. The region is growing.
This stops development.
Well, our density is set. We know what our maximum density level is. It was established a decade ago. But that's not going to change.
This stops that. You can't add a residential unit, period. The TDR system is out the window. Everything the planning and zoning book... Thank you.
I read this and I didn't interpret it the same way, but it is possible we need to get another opinion.
I'd like more information about this.
I appreciate
you bringing it to our attention.
At the very least, you should hire Weiss Serota or Greenberg Trowel or somebody to come in and explain to you folks just what the actual financial ramifications of this Trojan horse are.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James.
Francis Newhut?
Francis Newhut, 9920 West Broadview Drive. Okay, I don't quite understand this entire thing, except for the fact that there's something about the sea level task force is recommending this, and this is with the levels of water are rising. And what's disturbing to me is that they talk about in here public facilities, infrastructure with the high levels, and everybody's ignoring how much money we're putting into our infrastructure, and we're not doing anything. In other words, for instance, the bridge. We've already been told it's obsolete. We already know you can't even get across the bridge safely. There's no walking. You can't get over to that valuable piece of property on the other side, which is our parkland, or hopefully our parkland. We should be taking out a bond. We should be getting ready to build a new bridge with access for people to go and enjoy our land, our properties, our municipal property. The other thing is, we're starting now the infrastructure, or someone's doing the streets over on the Kane Concourse now. Well, you know, I read a sign that said limited pedestrian access over the bridge, and they cross out a handicapped person from being able to walk over the bridge. I mean, to use the wheelchair to go over the bridge. What kind of nonsense is this? Nobody has access to get anywhere in this town. So with this high water, if you notice, even with the people who are the developers on the gateways now, who we were nice enough to give our gateways to, they stop with the what is it in the back there with the docks, whatever that is, the seawall, and it stops right where our gateway is and drops about 2-3 feet. Well, that's really nice of them to do that. I mean, we're paying for everything, and I think this is a waste of money, what we're doing. I have the pictures of all that's going on in this town, the expenses of the bridge, also on the southwest property on Biscayne Boulevard, right before we go over the bridge, that lot was full of water, and was told we cannot use it because it wasn't accessible. I think they wanted to put a dog park there. Well, right across the bridge where there's all this water, guess what? They're putting all this sand and everything else for whom? For whom? So that a bunch of cars can look at some sand on their driving? I mean, we have to think about the future. This is not the future, doing an infrastructure, which we're doing now, is costing us millions of dollars. I think now it's another $11 million we're putting into an obsolete bridge. For what? So that we can all drown. Thank you. This is the picture of all of these things going on with our infrastructure.
Thank you, Ms. Newman. I'd like more information on number 4 before I vote on that, so let's defer that. Okay, number 12, Josh, I think you pulled that.
Yeah, my only, I like what Isaac is trying to do here. The only thing that I would definitely add is I think that we need to have the town attorney draft some language in there explaining to anybody why that the public officials here will not be participating, that due to sunshine laws, we are not to be posting up on there because technically there might be a problem. So I just want that explained as part of the terms of service and explanation to, okay.
I think there was a conversion issue from word to word perfect that led to several.
Yeah, I was going to say that, and then over and beyond, above and beyond that, I think, I don't know if it's appropriate in this particular, set of rules and regulations, but I think we need to also allude to, non-town of Bay Harbor Islands presence on social media and the use of the words Town of Bay Harbor Islands and the use of the logo on other, websites that are not sanctioned or sponsored by the town, and, the permission that someone has to get to use our name or our logo.
There's an ordinance on the...
Yeah, we did that.
On the logo.
We've done that already, so that's somewhere else.
It doesn't have to say it again on there. People aren't going to be
Right, we can put something there, yeah.
Right, so, did you want to just not approve it now, or do you want to approve it now, subject to the staff?
Let's see the language. I mean, I guess I just want to make sure it's clear, and just so everybody understands what we're talking about, besides, the local part is obvious, you're right, and absolutely right, and just we put that on there, but what we're talking about before is you're not going to see anyone up here as a public official posting onto the social media. Under sunshine laws, there may be, we've already been told there may be a problem if it's communication. If we're posting, if two people are posting, that can be considered potentially a communication. So what I'm asking the public to understand is if they post a question or something on there and then they wonder how come my council person is not responding, that's why. We will not be responding onto the site.
Okay. Mr. Newhart?
You after this?
Okay, Jim. Do committee reports. Okay.
Francis Newhart, 9920 West Broadview Drive. I have to tell you that I went to Surfside, and they have a program similar to this. And the public got up and spoke about it. And this is a form of censorship, because the people who got up, they actually took, one guy was going crazy because they don't let you, in other words, somebody is screaming what you have to say. So you can say, well, who's to do that? Who in the council, or who's ever screaming this, can decide, well, I don't like this, I'm not going to put it on this particular Google whatever. But the other problem I have is, our town has had, I don't know how many years now, Channel 77 or Channel 88, and we can't get that together yet. I mean, every few months it goes off the air, you can't hear it, the social media, I mean, it's just awful. And this has been going on for many years. And then you have staff not giving you the minutes. I mean, they're very busy. They just don't have time. So for 6 months, you don't have the minutes of these meetings. So why are you giving them more work to do when they're not even doing the work they're supposed to be doing? This is just adding more work, costs more money, and we still haven't gotten it together on the computer. So I am opposed to this completely. This is called censorship. This is another way of government checking you out. If you want to speak to someone, you have your emails, you can talk to them, you have your Google, what is it called? My daughter has that, I don't know what it's called. But you can surely use the computer without going to the government. And please, don't give these people more work. They have too much to do as it is, with too many vacations. We don't want to give them any more. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's all the public comment we had on that item, so...
I have a few comments, if I may. Yeah, I have been bugging the town, the police chief, to somehow give us a mechanism to get more information out. I got a call from a longtime resident after, we have a very low crime rate here, and we should be very proud of that. And then when something does happen, it's really a big deal. And we've had a couple robberies here in about the last year. Both cases were solved. I'm very proud that we all supported the camera, the surveillance camera, the license plate readers have been wonderful in capturing crooks. And, but still, if you don't hear about it, we get the word right away, and there's sort of an informal grapevine that happens, but for the person who found out, and this particular person is a senior citizen, and said, I didn't find out about this for a month, and I would like to be able to, warn the others, so to speak. I mean, it's important that everybody's careful all the time, not just after there's a crime. But, I also follow social media of other departments. Miami Beach has a lot, Surfside, and I sometimes, learn about the bridge before, we even get around to it from the Surfside site. And for Miami Beach, either Mayor Levine or the police site on Facebook, they report very useful, practical information. It's not really gossipy. The Miami Beach Police Facebook page reports
all kinds of problems that can really, help you out and won't leave you stuck in traffic. And every once in a while, an issue comes up, and you can see it, people will comment. And I've been to a lot of these different seminars at Day League and others about how to address that. And I've never really seen anything so heinous. People do express themselves just like they can also do on the Miami Herald's commentary, below stories. And of course, that's not ours, and we're not having to keep track of public record. I know that's a big concern for the clerk, that you would have to provide all that. But whatever we can do to make this happen, to facilitate the information getting out there to the people, I would love to have a newsletter, just an email that people sign up for. That would be great. But I think the great thing about Facebook and Twitter is they're free, and, they're easily accessible. And there's actually a couple of sites like Hootsuite that you load up one message and it'll send it out to any of your choice. So however we can work out the kinks, I think this is paramount that we inform people.
I agree.
Okay,
I'm a supporter of this. I think the next generation of my kids, and I'm starting to learn a little bit about it, but it is a way for us to be able to communicate with our residents in a way that I think that it's important. I mean, besides the police, it's a tool for all of us to be able to get accurate information out there, so that exactly the rumor mill doesn't get, first the person was, it was 3 in the morning, 12, and they can go, they have a place for them to go and be able to find information that is accurate. So I am supportive of it. I do understand what Ms. Newhart's saying about abuse of it, but I think that if we take it nice and slow and we take baby steps, I think that we will, get into the next generational gap.
right. I certainly think other municipalities have managed this whole issue, and, I think it's the exact opposite of censorship. I think it's more transparency and a better means and a newer means to get the message out, because just posting something on the website, people have to actually actively go and go on, click on our website and go into the website and dig out information. This way, people that just follow Bay Harbor or like Bay Harbor will just get automatic updates on information that's important. And, I'm not saying that there's no downside. Like Mrs. Newhart said, there's definitely a downside, and it could cause a little bit of controversy. But again, this is something that we have to deal with. We're a mature municipality, and we got to, take it like you said, with baby steps, and we need to, I think it's important to have something like this. Any other questions from the council or comments from the council? Okay.
We'll incorporate the two things that you guys mentioned and bring it back to you, if that's okay, so that you can read the language that you...
Well, something that I had in mind, actually, in reference to this item, which is a consent agenda item, was the discussion on the possibility of having an intern. And I think, this might be a complementary item to having an intern. This way we can, if the council does decide to have an intern, I would recommend that one of the qualifications that they must have in order to gain this internship would be extreme knowledge and in-depth knowledge of social media, Twitter, Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. So
That'll be hard to find a young person that knows how to use Facebook.
Oh, yeah. But, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Anyhow, we don't have to take a vote on this, or?
No, he wants to see the language that we come up with, so we'll make a reference to the official seal. It is in our code in section P3, but we'll make a reference to that, the use of the seal, and we'll also make a reference to the possible sunshine conflict when council members answer posts. That's why they're not allowed to somehow.
Right, and
Frank and I will work on that.
That'll just be incorporated in the policy, but we're going forward. So we're going forward with it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I need to clarify the policy.
Okay, perfect.
We have an item on the agenda for committee reports. I don't know if...
There was none submitted.
None submitted? All right,
Mayor,
thank you.
can we have Morris and Ann come up and maybe have a couple words about the fact that we are naming the bridge after your wonderful father?
Of course.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, on behalf of all the members of our family and my sister who's here with us tonight, we really want to express our gratitude and our appreciation for the official name of the causeway would be known as the Shepherd Broad Causeway. To join the other causeways named, as we have the William Lehman Causeway, we have the Julia Tuttle Causeway, we have the John F. Kennedy Causeway, and the Broad Causeway for the past 63 years has honored the achievement of really a truly extraordinary person, and who did so much for so many in creating Bay Harbor Islands, and of course the inspiration for the construction and development of Broad Causeway. You know, for many, many people, the identification of Broad Causeway really meant to a great number of people that it was a very wide and very broad street. And this really will, for the family, for generations to come, and for all of those who played really an important part in the development of Bay Harbor and Broad Causeway, it is a tribute for which we are very, very grateful. And I know that many, many years ago, when my father conceived the idea of a causeway which would give ready access to this area with Bal Harbor, Surfside, Bay Harbor, the Miami Daily News at that time, which was a major paper, the afternoon paper in our town was a more important paper actually than the morning paper, the Miami Herald, and they had an editorial that was really a scathing indictment of my father's efforts to put through a causeway, saying that it was going to go from no place to nowhere. It would sink in the bay and it would be an absolute fiasco. I'm happy to say that they were wrong, because over 200 million cars have used the causeway since its inception in October 1951. I think my more than 3 minutes are up. But again, our heartfelt thanks and appreciation to each and every member of the council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We're up to item 14.
14.
Approval of an ordinance on first reading amending the Town Code, Section 23-9, which relates to the minimum size requirements of living units for residential development. This was requested by Councilmember Reed at the last meeting.
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, amending the Town Zoning and Planning Code, amending Article 1 entitled Zoning Regulations, amending provisions in Section 23-9 to require that dens or studies that are converted to bedrooms must meet the minimum size requirement of living units for multifamily developments, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing an effective date.
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion with a change, though. What I was looking at was more to increase the square footage if there is a den or study area to whatever, the next additional unit would be. So if it's a one-bedroom plus a den, then I would like to see that have the requirement of a two-bedroom. So that would be 1,150 square feet instead of like what I'm seeing, 1,050. So I think it would be very difficult to enforce it otherwise. So I make that motion.
Sorry, could you repeat that? I was reading. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. A motion to approve this on first reading, but making an amendment, instead of just requiring
that the square footage go to the next size apartment. Right now, the way that it reads is it requires that if you convert a den or a study into a bedroom dwelling size, it must meet the minimum square footage for that. I could explain it better if you indulge me in, let me say, okay, I withdraw that. I make a motion that we approve this.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Discussion? You're saying as is, without as is, okay.
Well, I think it's easier if I modify it later, but for now, as is. And I'll explain. I didn't do a very good job explaining clearly. I was looking on the internet at the Realtor.com site just to see what was going on in town, and I came across a one-bedroom, two-bath apartment that was 1,060 square feet, and the description of the property said it's a one-bedroom den with two baths, easily converts to a 2-2. So that would make it a 2-2, about 100 square feet undersized. And, you know, I kind of sensed that this was going on when I'd seen other units that have a den and two bathrooms. You know, I mean, it's really nice when you have a one-bedroom and to have two baths or a bath and a half, because then, you know, you still have your master and you can have a powder room, you know, that's great. But I think that we're having so many of these floor plans that have a one-bedroom, a den, and two bathrooms that are undersized, and in this case, it's, you know, prima facie that they are actually encouraging people to do that. So without having this, if we have these one-bedroom, two-bath and den units that are undersized, I think it's, as this is written, it's going to be very difficult to enforce. If they're sold as a one-bedroom den and they're undersized under the two-bedroom limit of 1150 square, then, you know, it's going to be almost impossible. Someone can throw up a drywall, you know, without permits, and I don't see how we would ever know that. And if you're looking at a 40-unit building and you have 100 square feet less, I mean, you're talking about cramming another 3 or 4 units in a building. Is that better?
Because I'm a little confused on what, I understand what you're saying, but, like, so if, say, we pass this and someone builds a den that's large enough so that, you know, at least we now know that they won't be minuscule units, the parking there doesn't change, though.
No, it's always
That's
two
the
per
problem, is that the parking is still, so they can convert later on at the larger unit, but we're still stuck with the same problem with parking.
True, it's always 2 per unit.
Right, that's...
We looked at it, you can, I won't repeat my staff report, but we looked at a number of other cities, and when they talk about den, it's usually related to the quantity of parking spaces in the research. We also talked internally amongst ourselves about adding like a minimum size for the den. Dens come in all different sizes and shapes. It's not, you know, a bedroom is typically 10 by 10, 10 by 12, 12 by 12, something like that. So that's 100 to 144 square feet roughly. The difference between the 900 and the 1150 is 250 square feet. So it doesn't really relate just to a den, you know what I mean? So we were struggling ourselves trying to come up with a numerical number to put into that equation. This is what we thought was the most generic, and you're right, it could, you know, you have the weekend warriors that can do whatever they're going to do anyway, but at least you can't advertise when it's, and the way it says here is that if you are going to convert your den, you know, then you have to have the minimum square footage. So if we find out about it, and that is, you know, we have to do that, then we can do an enforcement action.
See, my issue is this. I mean, I'm a big proponent of larger units, but I don't see how we're not just doing nothing but making a mess here, because all it means is there's just another way around. Let's say a developer then sells it as, instead of having a den, if we're defining a den or anything else, it's a bedroom, and here's a full-size dining room, and then a breakfast area, something like that. So they can label it whatever they want, and it would get right around it. They just change the name, and you've got another small room, as long as there's a dining area next to a bathroom, you know, when they sell it. What do we do?
Yeah, there are building code issues. If you have a bedroom, there are certain, Dale and I were chatting, that you have to have two means of ingress and egress. You have to have a window
and a door, obviously, or two doors. Usually a den is, or we looked at a number of site plans that we've been looking at recently. Some of them are just really a small little area that's completely inside the building. It could never qualify under the building code to be a den.
Right, but we're talking about improper and illegal conversions anyway.
Right.
So the fact that it doesn't meet code, which I can understand that, if someone's going to illegally go ahead and convert something, they convert a dining room, whatever else. I don't think there's, I'm sure that there's not a certain requirement that a dining room has 8 windows versus 6 or anything like that. It's, if someone's going to do something improperly, they're going to do it improperly. I just don't see how we enforce this.
Well, if it has that kind of an area, and you just make sure that they have 1,150 square feet, if there's a bedroom and an area that could be divided, especially, what about if there's 2 bathrooms? Do you feel like having
I
2
agree with the
bathrooms?
concept. I'm just saying I don't see how we do it, because like I said, all they'll do is instead of calling it a den, they'll rearrange it and give it a different name as far as, like I said, a breakfast area and dining room. Family, or something along those lines. There are ways around it, and I think that's all we're going to have right in front of us.
How do you feel about then, forgetting how the areas are laid out, whether there's a den or not, it could be just, like you say, a large apartment. What about if there are 2 full baths, like not a powder room, but, a full bath with a shower, with a tub, whatever, but if it can bathe, if there are 2 areas that have a full bath, then you pretty much have to assume that there's a reason for that.
No, not necessarily. I mean, people have, a pull-out couch.
My mother has 2 bathrooms in her master bedroom, and it's
So like a his and her kind of thing. Oh, that's true.
So, I mean, from experience,
That's true, I didn't think of that.
yeah, like if I was to buy an apartment, I would want a his and hers. Sorry, Harry. I know what you're trying, I know the concept. My question is, the minute they put up a wall, when they sell it, I don't know how they're selling it as a 2. In other words, when they go to sell it, it's still a 1-bedroom, whatever, right?
But she said it, she read it, it's a 1-bedroom with a den.
Right, but if you don't
But they're just kind of enticing you and giving you ideas.
Yeah, well, this was new construction.
Well, you can create a 2-bedroom out of a 1-bedroom, a 1-bedroom convertible, it's called. 1-bedroom with a den.
But I think what you're saying is maybe what we need to do is to start monitoring the sales. I mean, people are there for a few years, but if someone goes to sell it, and all of a sudden in the building where we know that they were supposed to have a 1-1 or a 1-2, and all of a sudden they're selling it and it says on the market 2-2, then we know that there's something wrong here, and that there was an illegal
But
conversion.
is something wrong? I mean, you use the word...
No, to our code.
It's like, what's wrong? We're really in charge of like the number of units on a lot. You know what I'm saying? Whether 1,000 square feet is built out into a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom, I think it's of very little consequence to us as a government.
I'm not disagreeing with that. What I'm saying what is wrong is if someone's redoing it without pulling permits.
Well, but we've always been concerned about that.
I understand, but that's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is,
a burning new issue to change.
What I'm saying is, if we're going back and we're looking at enforcement, I think the only thing we can do is when they go to sell, if it's being marketed in a building where we see that it's not appropriate on there, we can backtrack and take a look and say, hey, this permit was never pulled. What I'm saying here is, I just don't see how we can enforce what this ordinance is. I understand where you're going. I just don't see how we actually do it. So,
Well, my point was that we have the minimum square footage for a reason. So, I want to try to uphold that, what we have.
Maybe you could say if there is a den shown on the site, the site plan.
But it's still fitting into the minimum square footage of the shoebox. It's still fitting into the box, right? Whether they can build a 3-bedroom in 1,000 feet. It's the apartment is complying with our minimum requirement for an apartment.
I'm not in the business of designing. Let the architects design it.
Right.
And let the contractors and the developers design it. It just, if it's done according to what we need to do, it is what it is. If somebody's in improperly or illegally afterwards, we look and see if we catch them in enforcement. That's all it is. I see where you're going. I appreciate it. I think, I've always said I think we need to have larger units in there, but I just don't see how this works.
Okay, do you want to take a vote, or?
All right, call the question.
Yeah, call the question.
Okay. Okay, Marlene.
Okay. Councilmember Sauer.
No.
Councilmember Reed. 4. Councilmember Fuller.
Against.
Councilmember Bruder.
4.
Mayor Alfie. I'm sorry.
For, but I think it needs further work. I wouldn't vote on second reading for this in its current format. I think, I mean, even in your memo, Michael, you indicate that the language needs work. At least that's what it seems to me, to initiate a formal code amendment with any modifications.
Yeah.
So I think we need to take another look at it, but I'm interested in pursuing it further. I just think it needs work.
And what are you thinking about, if you can give us collectively staff?
No, I have to consider it a bit more and
Okay.
contact you. I just, I have some...
Thank you very much, Michael. I know you did a lot of work on this, and Dale, I'm sure you helped too. Thank you.
And Marlene?
Marlene. Well, Marlene helps with everything.
Thanks.
Item 15, consideration and approval on first reading of an ordinance requested by Councilmember Reed amending Chapter 9 of the Town Code to prohibit the use of styrofoam products.
An ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Bay Harbor Islands, Florida, amending Chapter 9 of the Town's adopted Code of Ordinances entitled Solid Waste Collection, specifically adding and revising definitions to Section 9.1 and adding a new Section 9.27, prohibiting expanded polystyrene foam products, providing for severability, providing codification, and providing an effective date.
Okay, I make a motion that we approve this.
I will second it.
Okay, discussion from the council?
Yes. I'm sorry.
You brought something for us?
I did. Well, I'd like to say, first of all, that I've consulted with about half of the restaurateurs, everyone from the Mini Mart to Beto's and everything in between. The coffee shop was wonderful. They're already on board. I think I said last time that they're moving to have, they have paper cups right now. At the Mini Mart, he said, I was thinking about changing my cups anyway, and the cost is going to be about $20 a case, but it's fine. So then Mr. Watts was nice enough to come over, and he had a couple of meetings here. He met with the manager, myself, and he brought over some more of the picture frames to show us what their company can actually take the styrofoam and make it into. And it was very enlightening, because I asked him where he got the majority of this raw material to make these things from. And he said from architects, the marine industry, fisheries, and things like that. So I thought, okay, that makes sense, that if there is a market to convert this, then it makes sense to me that the target to get this raw material would be really, big bulk items. So I just so happens that a friend of mine was building a kitchen, so there were some boxes, and I think we've all received items where you unpack a microwave. And I separated all the big styrofoam chunks, and I got 4 garbage bags full of styrofoam. And one of them looks like this. And I'm going to donate it, but I have the other 3 that I'm saving, because the other thing that Mr. Watts suggested was that that didn't hurt, right?
No.
That we have some kind of a receptacle for people to put, their styrofoam. So I really didn't think it was necessary now, having this full realization that what we really need to do is target these big things. And maybe, if they make a boat and they use a big mold or something, that's what really needs to be recycled. And I think it's still a good idea that we have the receptacle, so we can encourage people, if they get something like this, they can put it in. If they happen to go to Dunkin' Donuts and they feel like they want to save it. But I really think that there is a movement to get away from the products for consuming food and beverage. And so I think this is a way to sort of make everyone happy. So thank you, Mr. Watts, for coming over.
So basically, we're going to ban by the use of our restaurant, but if you have styrofoam, you can bring it to the receptacle and have it taken away.
I met with Eric in my office at the Direction Council, and we came to the realization that we could have one area that we could collect styrofoam. He would provide some educational material and something that we could put on the TV and website, particularly the TV, explaining it and kind of try it. He would provide, he would come when they get filled, we just call and they would come and collect it.
I think we should try it. I think.
Okay. Eric Watts. Tracy.
Thank you, Your Honor Mayor, the Honor Mayor, and the Honorable Consul. Thank you for having me. I just wanted to just touch on a couple of things in regards to the EPS, which is known as Styrofoam. I know that some of the concerns that you had, Councilwoman Reed, was that it was carcinogen. And I just wanted to say that basically, if you look at it, styrene is what everyone is up in arms about, the name styrene. The name styrene basically is the chemical that everyone's saying is carcinogen. But it only has, if you look at your containers, your cups, your containers that you would use in the restaurants, it only is basically 5 to 10 parts per billion of styrene. Yes. Which simply means that your bottle of beer has more styrene in it than the containers. Cinnamon buns have more styrene than your containers. Your coffee has more styrene in it than your containers. So when we look at this, we want to make sure that, and like I said, yes, we do take the majority of our materials are bulky items at this point. But we're one of the largest styrene recyclers in the state of Florida. And what we are now marketing and targeting are the smaller things that we can really divert from the landfills and divert from any other type of waste stream that is currently going in. And we can turn it back around and reuse it into various different types of materials. Like I said, such as picture frames, your eyewear, some of your eyewear. It's used for various different things. Your crown molding. Pretty much everyone would probably have some type of form of polystyrene in their home, or they're wearing it and really don't know about it. So I encourage the council to really look at this, and we're more than welcome to help you in any way we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael D. Filippi.
Hello, Michael D. Felipe, 410 Euclid Avenue. I actually live in Miami Beach. I came because I was kind of the one that hi Kelly. I came and I kind of spearheaded the movement in Miami Beach, which we've passed legislation there to eliminate those kind of products like the cup you see up there. In city facilities, sidewalk cafes, all the restaurants in Ocean Drive, Lincoln Road, that kind of stuff. And since then, it's been passed in Bell Harbor, so they eliminated all city facilities, the beaches, as well as like within the shops, that kind of stuff. Key Biscayne also passed something similar. This came about because I was doing a lot of environmental cleanups, coastal cleanups. For instance, along Indian Creek, there's coastal mangroves and all that kind of stuff. And the item which I find the most of is little pieces of broken down polystyrene foam. So if somebody litters one of these little cups, it's so lightweight, and especially like a day like today where it's raining, it's windy, if someone litters one of these items within the streets here, it could easily potentially carry out over into the water, and it gets broken down to these little pieces, which it's not biodegradable. It's very easy for marine life to swallow it. And you cannot recycle it. You can't put this in your single stream recycling. It's very difficult. The City of New York actually, effective July 1st, will be starting a citywide ban on all these products because they determined after several years of research that you just can't recycle it. It needs to be almost perfect without any kind of soil to recycle it. So I think passing this, even though it just has a minimal effect, because your town is quite small and there's minimal businesses that are actually affected by this, but it's sending a message that Bay Harbor Island is a progressive city and that you guys do care about the items that potentially do get littered, because if someone does litter something here, it's going to end up somewhere else, and it can be very destructive. So I appreciate you taking the time listening to Ms. Reed's great item, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Michael, I have a quick question. You're on the Sustainability Committee there on Miami Beach?
Yes, Miami Beach Sustainability Committee.
Right, that's like our equivalent of the Environmental Impact Committee, and Thank you very much for
If
coming
you guys have any
out.
questions, I mean, our city attorneys did extensive research on this. They got opinions from old DEP attorneys. They determined we were not preempted by any kind of state laws, so we've gone forward with this, so...
And they're going to incrementally work up to this because they're big. They're starting with city facilities that are probably bigger than our whole town, retail facilities.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you guys could do a full citywide ban, and it'd be minimal. I mean, you got just a few businesses, but we have, hundreds of thousands of businesses where we'd have to, Dunkin' Donuts and all these places would have to convert, but that's coming, hopefully by the end of the year.
Thank you.
So, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Luck?
Hello again, Susan Luck, 10180 West Bay Harbor Drive. So just to support Councilwoman Reed's number 15, banning styrofoam. This is an article from Scientific American dated January 14, 2015 that speaks to New York City ban on polystyrene food containers. And just to show that there's even a picture of Dunkin' Donuts removing styrofoam cups from all city locations in response to ban in 536 shops within the 5 boroughs. So that's just an example that it could be done on a large scale. And another article talking about from USA Today that this is a trend that's going to happen in all cities and small towns throughout America. It's at least one small way that we can demonstrate that we have an awareness of how the environment is being impacted by the products that we use, and it's our small way of contributing to maybe doing something good. So I support this, and I hope that the council will as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Dale Lee?
Dale Lee, building official, 1617 Southeast 10th Street, Fort Lauderdale. I certainly agree that, we should regulate the cups and things like that. I've seen them in the waterways, and they don't disintegrate like maybe paper cups might be, so it would be an easy fix to require them to be, paper cups that would work well in restaurants and things and not pollute the atmosphere. But my concern is when it says prohibiting expanded polystyrene foam products, you don't realize how much foam products are being used in construction nowadays for forming materials, for cornices, decorative work. So you need to be a little specific when you address this. If it's just cups and things of that nature, that's fine. But when you start restricting it from totally with a broad brush, it's going to really hurt a lot of construction issues.
Dale, a question. Are there any alternatives for, do you see other things, like maybe you see the styrofoam sometimes used to form, but are there any other alternatives?
Well, prior to the styrofoam, they used to use wooden forms and, cut them to shape and for arches and things of that nature. But it was expensive and time-consuming to build these things because you could only use them one time and they had to be destroyed. But the styrofoam, they can pump those things out and build them into their forms. And they spray them with I think it's kerosene or something, and it dissolves them. So and of course, a lot of the decorative foam work you see on buildings, cornice and foam work and stuff like that.
Well, the ordinance is written only prohibits...
Yeah, if it's specific to cups and things like that, that's not a concern.
Right.
Thank you, Dale.
That's it for public comment. Any other questions, comments? Marlene, would you
Sure.
take a vote?
The way this reads,
These are just definitions.
okay,
So this is adding definitions.
tell me in the language of the, 'cause I didn't see it.
It's a new section added for the end of the ordinance.
Yeah, the-
20-12. 927.
Yeah, take a look at 927. It just says that food service businesses, which is defined as restaurants, food trucks, anyone who sells food, okay, are prohibited from selling or providing food and drink in or on expanded polystyrene foam products. That's it. That's the only prohibition. There are too many products that we would have to look at.
Right.
Boat hulls, Gillette shaving products. We wanted to make it very specific. I understood what the mandate was. I watched the video. I wasn't here last week. That's all this affects. Just restaurants and food vendors.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. Councilmember Bruder. 4. Councilmember Fuller.
4.
Councilmember Reed. 4. Councilmember Sabra.
4.
Mayor Yaffe.
4.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Item 17.
Asking approval of a proposal from CTR Parking in the amount of $18,670 to upgrade and update our parking meters in the parking garage.
I'll move it.
Thanks.
Second.
Discussion from the council.
Let me ask you, the machines are going to work similar, or is it a newer version, or are we going to be putting in the same ones as Surfside?
It's going to be it's going to be the same exact machine that we have. We're just upgrading the internal components of the software and upgrading the credit card readers on all of them.
Okay, that's what I just want to make sure. I've had multiple people talk to me and ask me how you use it for one reason.
One moment. Public comments from Mr. Maya.
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street. And my comments on this item are also comments that are applicable to the sweeper contract that you passed under your, no need to discuss issue, and that is no bids. What is wrong with trying to seek out, the best, lowest bid? Are we that lazy in what we're doing and we have so much money that we can just go ahead and say, hey, well, these people have the parking meters, so their equipment will probably work best, but we don't know for sure. What is wrong with engaging in the bid process? I know that this council, has had, in my opinion, a really horrible experience with the bid process and the appeal procedure, especially as it related to the tennis center contract, when a gentleman was denied his due process rights administratively. Is that what we're trying to avoid here? Are we trying to avoid, multiple bids on a project so we don't have to deal with something that you guys never bothered to fix, after this really horrendous, disgusting display with that contract? What is wrong with going out and seeking bids on this? What is wrong with going out and seeking bids on the sweeper services? Anybody, start to think that maybe that contract isn't the best contract for us? Why do we have to take his word for it? Why can't we bid it out? And your code is replete with language requiring that things be bid out unless there's an emergency, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is not an emergency. This is, something that can be bid out. Why not seek the best possible deal? And this might be it. But let's do that. At least go through the effort. Thank you.
I just want to clarify.
You address that in
Sure, absolutely.
But go ahead.
About 5 years ago, when we were in the process of building the parking garage, as part of that, I went out to bid and received public bids for parking meter systems. We got a bid from Metric Meters, another one from McKay Meters, if I'm not mistaken, and unfortunately, the company that provides the ones on King Concourse Park, and they were going through some organizational changes, so they didn't bid at that time. We evaluated those bids, and we selected this company, Metric. And they have a distributor in Florida. We are buying them from the distributor. These are the parts for Metric. So we're buying them from the distributor in Florida. That's why it's not like an item that I can go out to bid. These are parts for metric meters.
Specific to those meters.
Specific to those meters. I did go and publicly get them bids.
Just for
But
the
this
record,
is proprietary software for metric meters.
right, just for the record, when are we required to go out for bid for, contracts? Is there like a certain benchmark?
We have, and I don't remember what the amount is there, but... We can go out to bid basically for anything we want to, but we're also allowed to, as a municipality, piggyback on other contracts or other properly bid contracts that are been bid out by other municipalities. We paid for our water, when we upgraded our water system in the town, we actually piggyback on I believe it was the Doral or Weston water main contract, and we secured an unbelievably good price on that. Small municipalities, there is a cost to doing it. We're not opposed to doing it, we do it all the time, but in this particular instance, and I'm not talking about the meters, it was mentioned about the sweeper.
Right.
Surfside, Aventura, Davie, Sunny Isles, all use the same contract for doing this very same thing, contracting for sweeper services. It's going to save the town a lot of money. Our sweeper is 10 years old. The average life of a good sweeper is about 4 to 5 years. We've spent probably about $6,000 to $7,000 a year maintaining that sweeper. In the interest of saving money, not having to start, and always having a good sweeper that's in good repair, instead of us having, as a small municipality, doing it, this was what we decided to do. It was discussed during budget time, and it was budgeted for. That's really it. I mean, there was really no secret to it. Did we save some money by not having to go out to bid and utilizing the system that as we should? I think so. And that's really about it. Right. As far as the meters, I hope I explained it.
You did. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes. 18.
Mayor, can someone vote to extend the meeting? We're still under that resolution.
Oh, we have to repeal that yet. Okay, I'll move to extend it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Ron?
18, discussion requested by Mayor Yaffe regarding a possible code amendment to permit pools on the side setbacks for properties located in the corners on the East Island. This code language already exists for single families on the West Island.
Right. So, seems like many years ago at this time, a resident on the West Island who lived on a corner property, corner of East Broadview and, one of the streets, wanted to put a pool. And, if you live on one of those corner properties, you know that there's no backyard. Your backyard is effectively your side yard. And those properties could not have pools. And they wanted to have pools like other homes had pools. So at that time, that particular resident applied for a variance. And I believe he even had discussions with Shepherd Broad at the time, about that process. And they worked out an agreement, and there was a number of properties after that, I think, also went through the variance process. And ultimately, the town council, decided to amend the code, and we have the language here on our agenda item report, which permits pools on side yards and certain properties. And so I was contacted by somebody doing a project on the East Island and wanting to know, but I don't know whether they assumed, because I didn't really have a discussion, just an email, I don't know whether they assumed that it was permissible on the East Island because it's permissible on the West Island, but we looked into it and they spoke with Marlene. So I asked to put this item on the agenda just for council discussion to see if the council is interested in permitting pools on side yards on basically the properties facing East Broadview, East Bay Harbor or West Bay Harbor, or maybe a couple of limited areas. And the pools, if they were permitted, would basically face the street and not a neighboring property. And as we require on the East Island, they would have to be fenced and landscaped to shield or hide them from the public and from the street. And then there were zoning, requirements as to, how close to the street those pools can go. So that was my purpose of putting it on the agenda. Anybody from the council have any thoughts on the matter?
My only thought is if you have the right on the West Island, the East Islanders should have every right the West Islanders have. Simple as that.
Right. I think, Marlene, you and J.C. already found one property that already has one, even if it's, I don't know why, it's not in the code, but it just exists.
Stumbled upon it, in the Summit windows, right here,
Over here, 97?
Yeah, if you notice, they have a, and I don't have the picture with me, but they have their pool is, I think it's facing, East Bay Harbor Drive.
Facing Carol Walk, that's what.
Yeah, it's facing the Carolina, along East Bay Harbor
Right.
Drive.
Right.
So there is an example of that.
Yeah, there's another one, the Town and Country at 98th Street on the northwest corner. But, those have, like 10 feet of parking and then a little more land. So they're really like 15 or 20-ish feet from the street, because even the Summit has the buffer of the full perpendicular parking spaces in front of it. So, yeah, the Summit, the parking spaces on that side are uptown right away. And so there's really like maybe 10 feet to the property line on the property. Right.
Which is the same case in the new buildings. There will be a landscape buffer and whatever other regulations you want to do. But it is they usually have two fronts. They have a bigger setback than you would normally have for any property, because those are all regular lots. But they have two fronts. They would have to have a two front, 20 feet and 20 feet. So they have different setbacks. They have different conditions. The resident that came for the variance was Eileen Tesla, and she's the last one that had come here and said, why don't you just change the code to allow it, since we had so many houses on the West Island that had pools on the side, on the front yard setback. And I'm sure that there's more buildings on the East Island. This building was built in the 60s. I didn't find anything in the minutes referring to the pool, but I'm sure it was approved part of the approval process on the building, because the pool is not new, it's old, and there was no record of them coming for a separate permit for the pool. So I'm sure it was approved as part of the building. So, some of the other pools that you're referring to are a lot further into the property.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking they were built within the setback because they're smaller buildings. So,
I just thought if the council wants to proceed with this, we could direct the attorneys to, draft some language that could come back to us.
Can you briefly discuss, like, the difference of getting a variance or changing the code? I got an earful at the Bal Harbor meeting the other day, and it's a little different
we
there.
I'm just going to talk about this particular item. Over the years, as Marlene said, every time somebody wanted to build a pool in their side yard, they had to spend the money, and they had to advertise, and it was really something that the council, I don't think anybody on the council over the years ever voted against one, because it was thought, well, why shouldn't they be able to have a pool? And there was room to put it, and they were required to landscape. So ultimately, because it had occurred a number of times, the council, as Marlene said, decided to amend the code. I remember one instance, this goes back a number of years also, where somebody wanted to build what do they call it, porte cochere or something, and it wasn't permitted by code. And they applied for a variance, and the council at the time said, hey, that's not a bad idea, it looks nice, let's just amend the code. And so at that time, the council amended the code rather than granting a variance, because they thought that if it, worked, that other residents or other homeowners should be able to do the same thing if they wanted to. So, I think it just depends on the particular situation and whether the council thinks it's, something good going forward that other, property owners could take advantage of, and if they could take advantage of that, why would they need to go through the process of having a variance? Because it's not affecting, if a code change were adopted, it doesn't affect just one property, it affects all of the similarly situated properties on the East Island, just like the current code affects all the similarly situated properties on the West Island where they have, their corner properties, and they wouldn't otherwise be able to have a pool. So, it could be done either way, of course. Anybody have any objection to first reading? I know there's some public comments, I'm not ignoring it, but just before we move on. All right, Francis Newhut.
Princess Newhut, 9920 West Broadview Drive. I'm tired of the town planner putting all these districts in one basket. Every district is distinct in their own way. And to compare the residential to an RM1 and RM2 or RM3 district for that matter, we're talking about swimming pools. Swimming pools make noise in this district of the RM2, RM3, and the RM1 because you have a density here. You have kids running around all over. We have a swimming pool. I mean, we're not out there all the time making noise in the pool deck and the screaming and the yelling. So how could you even think of putting this type of encroaching into your neighbor in a district like this with the densities that they are? But more importantly, we'll go back to why it was approved in the residential. And that was because the corner lots didn't have enough property in the back to put a swimming pool. So that was the reason why we allowed corner lots to put them on the side. And yes, there is a code, and it specifically says for the residential district, they're allowed to do that. And that's number X on here. And that was strictly for the RD single-family district to follow these restrictions. But to give it to these people, it's like, it's not the same. It's not the same. And, you know, the other thing is, most of these people who are coming for this are developers. And these developers are knocking down the whole entire property. It's not like they have a little corner somewhere and they can't get the swimming pool. They have a whole lot now, so they can figure out, with not encroaching or going into the setbacks, where to put their swimming pool. Thank you.
Thank you. Victor Maya?
Victor Maya, 1155 103rd Street. If you took the time to read the emails that you were copied on this topic, you pretty much have my position. I would like some assurance, Mr. Fuller, that if the standard is what's good for one side is good for the other, that when East Islanders request zoning that exists on the west side, that you would support that as well. You know, let's face it, there's a difference, and Francis is right, on one side or the other. You know, and the genesis of this request is a project that's already been approved by Planning and Zoning. Last week, Planning and Zoning approved a project that put 4 swimming pools on the top of townhouses. They just didn't plan it in that way. They just happened to get a buyer that said, hey, it would be nice if I got a pool. Well, it's too late. Now I have to go back to Planning and Zoning and get things changed and so on and so forth. So it's much easier. Let's get the council to come in and do the work for us. Come on, guys. You know, this is specific to one buyer on one lot. All of a sudden, we're going to change the code for the entire island? Come on. This notion that it's a matter of fundamental fairness is false. It is intellectually dishonest. And, you know, I don't know legally what spot zoning is, but I can trace back this request to one developer on one unit of a multi-unit townhouse development. And you want to change the entire code for that? Please. Please, please stop the madness. There is a process here. It's called variance. They can go to their neighbors. The neighbors can come to you from all around and all 4 corners and say, hey, we don't have a problem with this. They can come to you and you'll say, fine. You know, nobody that's going to be impacted cares. There is a process for this, and changing the code is not it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hector Gualda? Good evening.
Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor, attorneys.
I'm really surprised that I'm here again for encroachment, because this is purely about encroachment. Now, there are two paths that you can take here. One, by changing the code, affecting many other people, and opening the door to other, needs, other developers. Or the other path you can take is only 3 people are affected. This group right here, and the 2 neighbors. That's it. Let them work it out amongst themselves and then come and ask for variance. Please don't change the code, because the bottom line is encroachment. There's no other way to look at it, whether it's a pool or whatever it is. It's encroachment. And residential and multifamily are 2 different things altogether. Please, let them work it out with the people to their left, the people to their right, and let them come and ask for variance, instead of affecting every single lot and many, many people. You open the door for the developers and it just doesn't work. And the arrogance is extraordinary. This guy's sitting there laughing. It's disrespectful. Please, don't allow this. Let them ask for variance. I have no problem with it, as long as they work it out amongst themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. You're going to do a draft ordinance, and we'll take a look at it, and then we'll have further discussion and further public comment next month.
Okay. Do you think it would be helpful to have a couple of sketches, maybe, or like, I'll take some pictures of existing
Take
pools.
pictures of existing pools. I mean, I could see also, on the West Island, where it already exists, what the effect is.
I heard the word encroachment a lot. Is it being used appropriately? Because that definitely affects, the way I would vote on this. I mean,
Well, pools are built in all the residential houses. They still have to comply with their 20% landscape code and everything else. There's a lot of exemptions to the code that allow certain encroachments. So I don't think it's such a dirty word, but it's just
Well, pools now, if you have
Yeah.
a pool, I don't know whether you have a pool or not, but if you have a pool in your backyard, it can't be any closer
They're
than
down
X
5
number of
feet.
feet to the
They have their
property
own-
line on the back and on the sides, and there are restrictions. And
Right.
I would imagine, I know, based on the West Island, what's already on the West Island is that there would be the same requirements.
Right.
You can't get any closer to the property line than whatever the specific number is. I don't have the code in front of me.
It might be a little different here too, how we have different new setbacks for single lots as a larger one, so if it were like one of those big projects that has, the bigger setbacks, that might make a difference too.
But we have to take a look at that.
Right, and then there's also setbacks for decking and all this, so we'll bring you something similar to what's on the West Island, applicable to the
you know what, bring more than that. Bring pictures and
We will
examples.
bring, yes, we'll bring pictures.
But practical examples of this, this is what we're talking about, this lot or that lot, and
Mm-hmm.
what they could do and what they can't do.
Right, we'll bring you more information.
Maybe we need more of a buffer, on the West Island.
Well, let's take a look at it. It's open for discussion by the town council, and if the town council doesn't think it's appropriate, then they shouldn't vote for it. That's all.
Next.
Okay. Item number 19. Discussion requested by Councilmember Bruda regarding the donation of proceeds received from the upcoming Taste of the Town event scheduled February 11th on the B1 district.
I'll move it.
Second. Wait.
Well, we haven't, I don't know, we're moving
Well,
the second.
we used to have a PAL program, and so we were able to use that money for scholarships and things that for children who could not afford certain things. And since we don't have the PAL program anymore, we need to designate where this money's going. And I would like it to be designated for the kids for the summer, to help them.
I still move it.
Thank you. But I have to at least tell you where it's going.
All in favor?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Where does it start Where's the first business, and can you still get tickets like there on the street?
No, well, you can get tickets at Town Hall up until I guess around 5:30 of the day of the event, because you need to have a wristband, and we're starting at Bedford at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And it'll be a lot of fun for those who have not bought their tickets yet.
Come hungry.
Come hungry.
Can you specify a little more when you mean for the kids in the summer? Because is
Well,
it for equipment or for...
It's going to be used, not for equipment, but it has to have a direct effect on the kids, whether it's a lunch program or it's, buying them the t-shirt. It has to be a field trip, a scholarship, because they can't afford it. It's not for it's not for buying soccer balls and equipment, because that doesn't impact the child directly. Not being able to afford to go on the field trip, or not being able to afford the t-shirt that you need to wear, or not being able to afford to go for 8 weeks at camp, because their parents can't afford it, that's a direct effect on that child. Does that help you?
Somewhat. I don't know what...
I mean, those are the things that the parks...
It sounds to me kind of like when there are different drives at school, I think, like the backpack initiatives, or maybe, giving out certain things, and sometimes the teachers get consulted. Who chooses? Do you need help with that? Like, how to choose, or that's going to work itself out?
Well, I think it's going to be, I've talked to Regine about that, and I've talked to Sean about that, and I think what we did in the PAL program is we had, they had to fill out, if they wanted scholarship, they had to fill out an application and bring in certain documentation to do that. And then, of course, in camp, we know who are the kids who are in need. And sometimes parents are a little embarrassed about, and I've seen some of the lunches that some of the children are bringing in. They need assistance with that. So, I think the people who actually work in the trenches will better know, who is in need. And they can come and say, look, this child isn't bringing lunch. Is there something that we can do to help them? And that's what I want the money to go. I want to have a direct impact on the kids.
So who's going to make those decisions, then?
Well, I think the staff. It's up to really staff, because they're the ones who are day in and day out with these kids. I think Regine or Sean, or they're with, they see these children every day. And
Listen, you can give it a try and see, if there's any trials and tribulations, you can adjust.
100%.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? And Item 20, discussion and approval requested by Councilmember Reed to approve the hiring of an intern and no more than $1,000 a month for 6 months for the purpose of facilitating strategic plan and possible other functions.
Yeah, first, I'd like to apologize because I was under the impression that we approved this through the budget. There was a $10,000 item, and, I've been wanting to have a strategic plan in place, and, so I thought that would be a really good idea, because the only one that I ever participated in was at Miami Beach, and with a really big agency, there's a huge expense, or Miami, the county, Miami Beach, they have a whole office of performance management and budget, and it's very complicated. And for us, I think having the strategic plan is a good idea, and it's basically a roadmap. Takes you from where you are today to later. It's a great plan. It includes things like a mission statement, a vision statement, value statements, goals and objectives, and I think it'll be very easy to come up with. But then I just happened to go to a meeting at FIU. Some of you might have gotten their emails for the Executive Management Public Administration Master's Program, and the dean there, Dr. Al-Qadri, suggested that we give one of his interns a shot at this. So you're not talking about a young student necessarily. This is a person who already has a bachelor's degree in business or public administration, who is seeking a master's degree and needs to do an internship. And it's customary now to pay about $1,000 a month for that.
So we're getting really a professional who could not only work on the strategic plan, but like Isaac said, you know, if we had a social media project or any other project deemed necessary, and I think it could be helpful. JC, I think you started off at Key Biscayne as an intern, right? So I was looking online, and I came across an FIU overview that in 2012, the village staff at Key Biscayne actually went to FIU to the same program, and they did the same thing. They pretty much use an intern to do a lot of their planning. So that's basically what I'm proposing.
How many hours a month are you expecting the person to work?
It's definitely part-time, and, you know, I thought that Ron was working on it because we did approve the 10,000. I'm really just asking for about 6 months. I think that's all it would take.
Did we approve the 10,000?
You put 10,000, the 10,000 was never taken out, it was just left in for the need, if I identified one, or one was identified by the council. Strategic planning, as it was discussed, is something that we do during the budgetary process, where we lay out our major infrastructure projects or major capital projects or anything that the council comes up with during the year that we don't have budget money for. And that's what we talk about, strategic planning. We lay out the projects as we're going to go, such as the bridge project or the community center or the garage or the streetlights, King Concourse, just to name a few.
Just as a side question, why, in the agenda item report, it doesn't say any budget impact or financial analysis or anything like that? Is there any reason why that's omitted from this?
I'm not sure why. I feel if we need a mission statement and core value statements, that's something I think the staff could work on. I think we would have more of the, to do. I mean, just to have somebody, honestly, I was thinking, well, I hadn't identified a specific role for an intern. If that's what you want, we'll hire an intern to do something that I believe we could probably do ourselves. However, I could see a need for an intern maybe in the Park and Rec program, something like that. We're going to have a community center built quite soon. We could use an intern there.
Social media we were talking about earlier.
I certainly have some ideas for that.
My only question, the reason I was asking about the hours, just be careful because the things have changed. It used to be for years, everybody said interns weren't paid or they got a little stipend. They are subject to minimum wage. Let's make sure we keep to it so they get paid at least that.
Well, I'd just like to reiterate, though, with a strategic plan with all the components that I named, sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And if you've never participated in one, and I can tell you that as a line level person, and my colleagues and I at Miami Beach, when they first said, report to this room at a certain time, you're going to be working on a strategic plan, you're going to help select. Trust me, all of our eyes rolled. It's not something that you want to embrace. But then once you've worked on it and you see, the mission statement is not just a tagline for your email. It's actually something, and I have to say that if you look on our website and you go to our police department, you will see that they have a wonderful mission statement, core values, and I recently learned that, it's a department, it's much smaller, you're talking about a couple dozen people, but a significant number of them work together to choose it, and it's almost like a team building kind of thing that comes together, but for the whole city, it has to include all the stakeholders. So it's not just the employees, that you have to give the community, it's not quite like the visioning, but that's why I really think that it needs to be at least coordinated by someone who has done it before, who's been studying it, because it's not just as simple as coming up with a couple of statements. There's some surveys that might need to be done. There's a lot of analysis, and it's really a specialty. Most cities do hire consultants, and I would never suggest that we go to the expense of hiring a consultant when, after talking to the dean of the School of Public Administration at FIU, he highly recommends having one of these professionals. This could be somebody like J.C., who maybe is an assistant manager at another city who's just working on a master's degree. And, I took a class for my master's years ago, and this is a really great manual, but, this is all the information, the forms necessary. It's not a simple task, and I would hate to see our staff dedicating that amount of time when an intern could do it.
I can't believe it's been almost 3 years.
Me neither.
Very good stuff.
Watch the elevator.
But I don't see that coming out of $6,000. That's my bottom line. We will have to budget more money towards this.
I want to know exactly what that person would be doing. I mean, I will say that I'm involved at FIU on the North Campus in the Vice Provost Council, and I've sort of been trying to get an intern from FIU into the town for a while. And I had talked to Regine about maybe the summer program or something like that. And these interns do have to be paid, so I don't object to an intern. I think want more information about qualifications and what exactly, this individual would be doing.
Well, I wanted to get your buy-in so that we could authorize, Ron to go talk to the dean and get more information and get the specifics.
Ron, you usually do like the strategic plan, right?
We don't have one.
Don't you do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's why you have
Where is it?
Well, we turn in a budget. We meet with this council on a regular basis. We've planned, since I've been hired, at least probably 12 major capital projects. We have a 5-year capital project plan that's submitted with the budget that anybody can look at.
What's our mission?
To deliver the best service for our town, the best, in the most economical fashion and keeping our taxes low. That is my mission, and I think we deliver that pretty much every year since I've been here, and to be not wasteful with money. And I think at the end of the year, the fact that we pass a budget on time and we pass our audits on time and everything that we do, we pass it on time. I think it's unfair to be consistently judged against Miami Beach. We're not Miami Beach. Every one of you have a very close tie to the community. I did have an opportunity to speak with George Gonzalez. We said when they did their strategic plan, it was really to reach out to a 60,000-person community that didn't always come to community meetings, and they were being basically hijacked by certain people. This was a way to kind of get out to those people. I would say with a 5,000-person community, your reach into the community is far greater than a 60,000-person community. Again, I'll be guided by whatever you want to do.
You don't believe the value is there?
The value is always having your door open and listening to the council, what their needs and wishes are, because you hear it as much as we do.
But you think...
That's why we're having that's why community center's on the drawing board.
So you think you would prefer us to use an intern in another area versus specifically for this?
I just know an intern to do this kind of work is going to be, unless you're getting that master's program where you have an assistant manager that has a lot of experience, maybe that has that, but it's going to impact the staff, because we're not just going to say, here's a book, go at it. It's going to involve a lot of people. And we don't have a big staff to start with.
Well, I'm kind of confused because this is supposed to alleviate the labor, on your staff.
I see some of the work being done by him, but it's certainly not going to leave us we have to meet with him. We'd have to have regular meetings. We're going to have to direct him. It's not going to be something that we're just going to turn him loose and say, have at it, we'll see you in 6 months.
Yeah, and by the way, you know that I worked in Miami Beach for 25 years, and I'm very sensitive that we are not the size of Miami Beach, but they've done some good things. So that's why I talked about Key Biscayne, which is a village of about 10,000 people. It's very similar. I looked at Surfside, Bal Harbor, And North Miami has a great plan. They're not as big as Miami Beach. If you just look at all the different cities, I also go to Florida League and Dade League, and I had a long talk with Marilyn Crotty, who does the training for the Florida League, and she also volunteered to come, maybe once or twice and help set it up. But that, I mentioned this idea of the intern to her, and she said, that's great, because you would need some kind of a staff to do it. I mean, it's a professional best practice for an organization, and even if we take our time to do it, it's like, I'm sharing my ideas to help make us better, to make improvements. I'm not trying to make the staff miserable, and like I said when I started, I wasn't crazy about the idea when I first had to participate in it, but, change is a little stressful, and in the end, you're really trying to improve your community. And it's worthy, and I highly recommend it.
Anybody would... What?
I'm not gonna have anything. Not gonna have anything. I had a thought, but I'm gonna stay away from it.
Okay, now I'm just trying to figure where we're at this point in terms of reaching a consensus.
Can we have Ron direct him to talk to the dean at FIU, or, and just come up with a plan to propose to us?
Do you have any objection, Ron, to talking to the dean?
Absolutely not.
Thank you.
Would you do that then and just report back to us?
Well, why don't we find out first if we're interested in even doing the plan before we direct him?
I sort of want more information.
I'm not
really convinced, I'm not really sure what's entailed or involved at this point in, a strategic plan for the town, and what this individual would do and what this individual would be able to accomplish, in the $6,000 budget. So I'd want some more information, and if that's just Ron having a conversation with the dean, I would just appreciate that, so it would help me make a decision. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Do we have a motion to
Adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you all.
Oh, we didn't do reports.
I know. Did we have to submit council report?